The evening heat was brutal. My lungs felt like broken bellows, and my legs were pure lead as I pushed through that final lap. When I crossed the finish line, I nearly collapsed, hands on knees, gasping. Sweat dripped from my hair onto the track and vanished instantly. Then the blue screen appeared. Only I could see it. Daily task, 5 kilometers jog, complete. Reward, appearance 0.1. My score was now 56.0. Still, ordinary, still invisible in a crowd. The system called me a clean background character, brutal, but honest. This thing, the male god development system, showed up in my head 2 weeks ago. No lightning strike, no accident. I just woke up on the first day of 10th grade, and there it was. My starting score was 52. That number hurt more than any insult ever could, because it was true. The system gives no magic pills, no shortcuts. Just boring, strict daily tasks. Drink 500 milliliters of milk, no sugary drinks. Sleep before 10 p.m., run 5 kilometers. Simple. Exhausting. But I stuck with it because I'm poor. Time and sweat are the only things I have. For points in 2 weeks. My skin looks better. My eyes seem brighter. Back in class, my friends Wang Hao, Li Fei, and Chen Dong teased me about my running. I brushed them off. I couldn't exactly explain the truth. Then the classroom went quiet. Xiao Wanling walked in. Black hair, white and blue uniform. Porcelain pale skin, delicate features, and a permanent expression that said, "Don't come near me." She'd been here 2 weeks and already owned the classroom just by existing. She's my seatmate, and we've barely spoken. I quietly shifted my elbow away from her side of the desk. After school, I walked home alone. No late-night snacks with the guys. I'm broke. That daily milk already stretches our budget. Home was a crumbling apartment in the old district, peeling walls and half-dead streetlights. Mom was in the kitchen in her faded apron, warming my milk. Dad was on the sunken sofa, fist pressed into his lower back, a war drama playing unwatched on TV. I dropped my bag and started massaging his shoulders. Under my fingers, his muscles were tight as rope. He's a porter. Back pain is his constant companion, and lately the overtime is making it worse. Is the pressure okay, Dad? Yeah. A little to the left. His frown eased slightly. I got to bed before 10 p.m. The system task required it, and I wanted those attribute points. With the noise of old AC units outside and the neighbor's TV, I actually fell asleep. Morning came at 6 without an alarm. I pulled up the system panel. Daily tasks, 50 push-ups, 10 minutes stretching. I dropped to the floor and started counting. The first 20 were fine. After 30, my arms burned. But I finished. Reward. Appearance 0.1, facial definition improved. I stood in front of the mirror. My face looked sharper, cleaner. The tired, dull look I used to have was fading. Nothing dramatic. Just someone who looked like they slept well and washed their face properly. Small changes, but they were real. Even a tiny improvement every day adds up to something big in a month, I told my reflection, and actually meant it. Outside, the morning smelled like soy milk and fried dough. The moment I pushed open our rusty front door, a sharp voice hit my ear. Su Bai? Wait up. It was Xu Zi from next door, sitting on a flower bed tying her shoelace, half-finished soy milk in hand. We grew up in the same courtyard. She's known me forever. She hopped over and immediately studied my face, chewing her straw, eyes narrowed. Did you start using skincare products or something? No. She leaned closer, almost touching my chin with her nose. You just look cleaner? Like someone turned on a soft filter. We argued and teased each other the whole walk to school. Normal morning. Second period was math. Our teacher, old Zhang, had a gift for making students fall asleep. His voice never changed tone, and the chalk tapping on the board was like a lullaby. I was staring at the board, but my mind was deep inside the system panel, calculating how long it would take to reach 60% facial definition at 0.1 points per day. At least a month. Too slow. Could I speed things up by running 10 kilometers instead of 5? Then thunder struck. Su Bai? Answer this one. What do you choose? The classroom froze. Kids who had been half asleep spun around to enjoy my suffering. Behind me, Wang Hao was making frantic hand gestures that made absolutely no sense. I shot to my feet, chair scraping loud against the floor. Total disaster. I didn't even know which test paper we were on. My textbook was still open to yesterday's page. Which question, teacher? I stared at the sheet full of geometry shapes that blurred together like a mess of lines. Old Zhang's expression darkened. He was already holding the chalk like a weapon. You were staring at the board smiling so happily. I thought you had discovered some new math truth. The class laughed. I wanted to disappear into the floor. Then, a voice. Quiet, cool just for me. Third question. Choose C. I glanced sideways. Xiao Wanling was looking straight at the board, pen in hand, like she hadn't said a word. C. I said loudly. The answer is C. Old Zhang studied me for a long moment, then said slowly, sit down. Pay attention in class. I dropped back into my seat, back damp with cold sweat. After my heart settled, I turned slightly toward her. Thanks, I said quietly, and meant it. She didn't look at me, didn't answer. She just gripped her pen a little tighter and kept writing her notes. The bell rang and my friends crowded around my desk immediately. Wang Hao was still upset about the math class, waving his terrible test paper. Li Fei quietly pointed out that Xiao Wanling had spoken to me, a guy, which apparently never happens. I brushed it off, said she probably just didn't want me blocking her light. It's cloudy today, Shindong said flatly, pointing at the gray sky outside. I didn't argue. I just glanced sideways at her. She was already reading her English textbook, sitting perfectly straight, like she was being graded on posture. Her whisper during class had been so quiet I almost thought I imagined it. She really was something, top of the grade on entrance exams. Lunch was loud and greasy. Wang Hao got the braised pork for 8 yuan. I ordered stir-fried greens, steamed egg, and plain rice for 4.50. He stared at my tray like I was eating grass. How are you going to run on that? Protein and fiber, I said. You wouldn't understand. The truth was simpler. The 3.50 I saved, plus what I'd put aside from dinner, would just cover a box of decent whole milk. The system's daily milk task never wavered, and our home supply was running low. I wasn't going to ask Mom for more money. Not after watching her spend 10 minutes comparing oil prices at the supermarket discount shelf. I spotted Xiao Wanling come in alone and sit by the window. Broccoli, shrimp, and egg, tiny portion of rice. Li Fei nudged me. The class beauty eats the same as you. Soulmates. I ignored him and finished my food fast. Back in class during lunch break, the curtains were half drawn. Most people were napping. I sat down quietly. Xiao Wanling was already asleep at her desk, face turned toward my side, resting on her arm. Without that cold expression, she just looked like a normal person. Long eyelashes, slow breathing, a few strands of hair on her cheek. This was the first time I'd looked at her this closely. The difference between 52 points and whatever she would score, it was like comparing decent features to a masterpiece. Then a gap opened in the clouds. A sharp beam of light came through the curtain crack and landed right on her eyes. She frowned, lashes fluttering. I raised my textbook without thinking and blocked the light. The shadow fell back over her face. Her brow smoothed out. Her breathing steadied. I held the book up for about 5 minutes, arm going numb, feeling a little ridiculous. This was exactly the kind of cheesy scene from a bad drama, and I did it without hesitating. The system popped up. Detected. Host performing a useless but gentlemanly action. No reward. Mild mood boost. Current appearance, 56.1. Don't forget today's milk. I put my arm down and shook the feeling back into it. What I didn't see, the moment I lowered the book, her lashes flickered once. She didn't open her eyes. But under the desk, her fingers curled quietly. 2 o'clock. The PE teacher gathered us on the baking hot track and dropped the news casually. 1,000-meter run today. The whole class groaned. Wang Hao looked sick, clutching his stomach full of braised pork. I rolled my ankles and felt the familiar tightness in my calves. 2 weeks of nightly 5-kilometer runs had quietly built something in my body without me fully realizing it. The whistle blew. I didn't sprint at the start like everyone else. I kept a steady pace in the middle of the pack. By 400 meters, the fast starters were already slowing down. Wang Hao was at the back, gasping. By 600, I was passing guys who had started walking. By 800, Li Fei was behind me too. Last lap. My legs got heavy, but there was still something left in the tank. My body remembered all those nights grinding out 5 kilometers in the dark. I crossed the finish line on my feet, hands on hips, walking it off slowly. High-intensity cardio detected. Endurance 5%. Posture score 1%. I wiped my forehead and looked back. Wang Hao was still 200 meters away, shuffling like a zombie. Someone threw something cold at me. I caught it, a sealed bottle of water. Shindong, who had somehow avoided the run by hiding in the bathroom until nearly everyone finished, walked over and slapped my shoulder. "You were hiding something, Su Bai." That was almost athlete speed. 5 kilometers every night adds up, I said, and took a long drink. Then Wang Hao crashed into me from behind, half his body weight nearly taking me to the ground. Across the field, Xu Zi had been holding 2 water bottles, standing on her toes watching the finish line. When she saw I already had one, she stopped. She pressed her lips together, opened her own bottle, and drank most of it herself. After PE, everyone rushed to the small school shop. The place was packed, cold air blasting inside while the heat cooked everything outside. Wang Hao used his size to push through the crowd and ordered an ice-cold cola. Li Fei wanted a sports drink. Wang Hao waved at me to pick something, his treat. I stood in front of the cold drinks fridge. The bottles were dripping with condensation. After running 1,000 meters in that heat, one cold drink would have felt amazing. The system panel blinked in the corner of my vision. Daily task: no sugar. Resist high-sugar drinks. Reward: skin oil regulation in progress. Do you really want to be a greasy teenager? I pulled my hand back and grabbed a plain room-temperature water from the shelf. $1.50. I paid for it myself. Wang Hao stared at me like I had 2 heads. "You just ran 1,000 meters, and you're drinking warm water. Cold drinks shock your lungs," I said. "Look it up." He shook his head and his belly wobbled as he walked away. Back in class, the ceiling fans were spinning at full speed and making that constant buzzing noise. I walked to my seat. Xiao Wanling was already back. Her uniform collar was perfectly white, not a single wrinkle. Her fringe was slightly damp against her skin, but somehow she still looked clean and fresh. She was bent over a math problem, back straight, not even touching the chair back. I looked down at myself. My shirt was soaked through with sweat and sticking to my back. I didn't sit down yet. I took out tissue paper and carefully wiped my neck and arms. Then I fanned my collar a few times. Only after I was sure I didn't smell too bad did I quietly sit down, shifting as far toward the aisle as I could. The sound of her pen moving across paper was steady and rhythmic. Then her left hand lifted, and she shoved the window all the way open. Hot air rushed in. I froze. She opened the window because of me. She was definitely disgusted. I edged another 2 centimeters toward the aisle. The chair scraped against the floor with a sharp, horrible sound. Xiao Wanling's pen stopped. She turned and looked at me, at my awkward, almost falling off the chair posture, then glanced at the aisle behind me. "You're blocking the way," she said quietly. "Just loud enough for the 2 of us." I turned around. Wang Hao was standing at the back door with a basketball, completely stuck because my leg and half my chair were in the way. "Move it, Su Bai." "What are you doing, Yoga?" I pulled my leg back and shifted my chair to its normal position. That brought me closer to Xiao Wanling again. My arm brushed past the stack of books on her desk. A faint smell reached me. Not perfume, just clean laundry and sunshine. Really nice. My heart skipped. I held my breath, scared my sweat smell would reach her. She looked back down at her work. Then, after a moment, she quietly moved the pile of books on the border between our desks over to her side, leaving a small clear space in front of me. Not pushing me away, just making enough room for me to rest my head if I wanted to sleep. I stared at that small empty space on my desk. It was exactly the right size. I glanced at her sideways. She was still looking down, her profile calm, lashes casting a small shadow. Like she hadn't done anything at all. I couldn't help smiling a little. Maybe this cold seatmate wasn't as difficult as everyone said. The Friday afternoon bell rang at 5:30 and the whole school exploded. Bags packed in seconds, chairs scraping, people cheering. No evening study on Fridays. Every high schooler's lifeline. Wang Hao and Qin Dong wanted me to come to the internet cafe. New game character, weekend, the usual argument. I shook my head. Going home for dinner. And I need to do Dad's back. Wang Hao went quiet after that. He knew about my family. "All right, go be a good son. We'll carry the team without you." I joined the river of students flooding out of the building and through the school gate. The evening sun stretched the camphor tree shadows long across the road. Just past the gate, I saw a girl standing under one of the trees. It was Xu Zi. She'd taken off her big school jacket and was just wearing a white short-sleeve shirt with a dark red bow at the collar. Her short hair was messy from the wind. She was kicking a small pebble back and forth with her feet, clearly annoyed about something. Several guys walking past were slowing down to look at her, but she didn't notice. "Fancy seeing you here," I said. She looked up, kicked the pebble away hard. Don't fancy me. I've been kicking that rock for 10 minutes. Did your teacher run over time? No. I had cleaning duty. She gave me a suspicious look. We both knew I was the first one out the door on cleaning days. She didn't call me out on it. She just grabbed her pink folding bicycle and said she was starving. Let's go. We've walked this same road home since kindergarten. Same old factory workers' neighborhood. I walked on the inside of the footpath. She pushed her bike on the outside, the wheels clicking over the gaps between paving stones. You ran pretty fast today, she said after a while, staring at her handlebars. Her voice was a little stiff, like she'd had to work up to saying it. People change, I said, grinning. Special training. She turned and leaned in close to look at my face. Very close. Close enough that I could smell faint orange soda on her and see my own surprised reflection in her eyes. Did you actually start washing your face properly? Your skin looks cleaner. The system quietly updated. Appearance acknowledged by Su Bai. Appearance 0.1. I kept my expression calm. Some of us are just naturally blessed. Late bloomer. You wouldn't understand. Shameless, she said, but her ears went slightly red as she turned away. We hit a speed bump and heard a sharp crack. Her bike stopped dead. The chain had come off, hanging loose and covered in black grease. She poked it once with a fingertip and immediately pulled back. I'll push it to the repair shop, she sighed. That old guy is a crook, I said. He charged me 20 yuan to patch a tire once. That's 3 breakfasts. I dropped my bag and knelt down. Move. I'll do it. It's really dirty, she said quietly. Fixing a bike is always dirty. I grabbed the greasy chain with my bare hand. Cold and sticky. I steadied the pedal with my other hand and felt for the right position on the gear. Su Bai stood watching. The evening sun was coming in at an angle, edging my face in gold light. She noticed my fingers were longer than she remembered. Her heart beat a little faster for no reason she could explain. When did he grow an Adam's apple? I didn't know any of that. I just hooked the chain, pushed with a flick of my wrist. Click. Back in place. Smooth. Done. I stood up and looked at my hands. Black grease everywhere. She was still staring at me with a strange look on her face. Any tissues? I asked. Oh, yes, she snapped out of it and dug through her bag, pulling out wet wipes. We passed a bakery called Sweet Story. The smell of warm milk bread drifted through the door crack. Su Bai stopped walking. Her eyes locked onto the red bean bun in the center of the display window. Fresh from the oven, golden and topped with black sesame seeds. I glanced at it too. High sugar warning. Red bean paste is high calorie. Recommended alternative. Whole grain bread or corn. I ignored the system and checked my pocket. 3 coins. Money I'd saved by skipping breakfast these past few days. Want one? I asked. No, she said, swallowing, turning her head away firmly. I'm on a diet. Red bean is high calorie. It causes breakouts. And I didn't bring money anyway. I'd already pushed the bakery door open. 1 minute later I came back out and put a warm paper bag in her hands. She stared at me. What are you doing? You were basically drooling on my shoes, I said, and helped kick her bike stand open. Eat it on the way. Don't let my mom see, or she'll say I'm wasting money. Where did you even get money for this? My health fund, I said, and started walking. Come on. It's getting dark. She looked at my back for a moment. Thin shoulders, straight spine, shirt moving in the wind. Then she bit into the bun. The crust cracked. Sweet red bean paste melted on her tongue, all the way down to her chest. Saturday, 6:30 in the morning. The sounds of frying dough and soy milk machines floated up from downstairs. My body clock woke me before any alarm could. The blue panel appeared right on time. Today's tasks: 5 kilometers fasted morning run, 3 sets of core training, 30 crunches per set, 2-minute plank. No punishment if I skipped. The panel would just hang there all day. But I got up anyway. Watching that progress bar fill was more satisfying than staying in bed. I brushed my teeth and splashed cold water on my face. The biggest change I noticed in the mirror was my stomach. That soft layer around my waist was gone. The skin there was flat and firm now. Not exactly a six-pack, but in the right light, tilting sideways. I could see 2 faint vertical lines starting to form. The system doesn't lie, I said to myself. Then I opened my wardrobe and the problem started. All my old clothes were bought when I was rounder and slightly hunched. I pulled on my most worn black track pants, and they just hung off me, the crotch sagging, the thighs empty and loose. I looked like a kid stealing his dad's clothes, or a failed rapper. In the end, I dug out an old belt and cinched it around the outside of the track pants. Terrible look, but nobody was watching at 6 in the morning. I ran 5 kilometers around the neighborhood, passing only a few old men doing Tai Chi. After 2 weeks, running wasn't torture anymore. It felt like a switch, something that turned me fully on after sleep. Back home, parents still asleep. I laid out 2 foam mats in the living room and started the core work. The plank was the worst part. At 1 minute 30, my arms started shaking, sweat dripping off my nose onto the floor. The system just counted silently in the corner of my vision. 1:58, 1:59, 2 o'clock, task complete. I lay face down on the mat like a dead fish, stomach burning. Then that deep, satisfying ache spread up my spine. After showering, I stood in front of the wardrobe again with a different problem. Wang Hao had been shouting in the group chat all evening. Outdoor basketball at the stadium on Saturday. I'd already turned down the internet cafe. If I skipped basketball too, these guys would show up at my door. But every shirt I tried on looked wrong. My old t-shirts hung loosely off my shoulders, the necklines too wide, the whole thing shapeless. Mom came out of the bedroom yawning, carrying an empty milk bottle. "Why are you just standing there, Mom? Did my clothes shrink?" She squinted at me, then walked closer and squeezed my shoulder, tugged at my waist fabric. "The clothes didn't shrink. Did you get taller? Or thinner?" She looked genuinely surprised. "These pants used to be tight on you. Now they're just flapping around." "I've been training for 2 weeks, I said vaguely. She laughed and went back to her room. She came out with 2 red banknotes. "Go to the shops. Buy something that actually fits. You look like a beggar in that." "How has Su Bai not laughed at you yet?" I touched the money. "Keep it for groceries. I have clothes. Take it." She gave me a look. "Your dad quit smoking to save money. Who else is it for? You're 17. Dress properly. It'll help you find a wife." I didn't argue again. I pocketed the money and thanked her. I didn't go to the big shopping mall. I rode my falling-apart bicycle to the wholesale market near the stadium instead. 200 yuan gets you almost nothing in a mall. Here, if you bargain, you can buy a whole outfit. I stopped at a shop with a sign saying, "Export surplus stock." The owner was a middle-aged man playing cards on his phone, eyes down. "Look around, try whatever," he said without looking up. I picked a plain white cotton t-shirt with no patterns and a pair of straight dark gray trousers. Simple cuts, but the fabric was stiff enough to hold a shape. "How much for both?" "T-shirt 50, trousers 80. Full set 120. 60, I said. His hand jerked, and he almost dropped his phone. He finally looked up at me properly. "Kid, you can't just cut a price in half like you're cutting someone's arm off. Look at this fabric." 55, I said, and turned to leave. "Hey, come back," he panicked. "Fine, 65. I swear that's cutting into my underwear budget already. 65. Deal." I changed behind the shop curtain and walked back out. The owner forgot to play his card. The white t-shirt fit just right across my shoulders, lean but clean-lined. The straight trousers made my legs look long. I pushed my fringe back with one hand. I barely recognized the person in the dusty full-length mirror by the door compared to the one who'd walked in wearing baggy old clothes 10 minutes ago. The system updated. Style corrected. Visual freshness too. Current appearance score, 58. Starting to look like a person. The outdoor basketball court next to the stadium was free, so on weekends it was packed. Cracked concrete, metal backboards that clanged loudly with every hit. Wang Hao had claimed half a court and was sitting under the hoop talking with the others when I arrived. I caught the end of their conversation. They were debating why I'd suddenly started training so hard. Shindong thought it was because of Xiao Wanling. Li Fei thought it was some girl from another class. I walked up behind them mid-theory. "What's this about stealing someone away?" All 3 turned around. Silence for 3 seconds. I'd parked my bike and was holding a large water bottle, wearing the new white t-shirt. The sunlight hit it clean and bright. Wang Hao stood up and walked a full circle around me. "Your shoulders. Your posture. Are you secretly training for the sports program?" "Just didn't want to spend 5 minutes playing basketball and wheeze for 30, I said, bouncing on my ankles. "You playing or not?" 2-on-2. Me and Wang Hao against Li Fei and Shindong. Technically, I was still terrible. My dribbling could hit my own foot. My passes could sail out of bounds. But my stamina was something else entirely. I just kept running. Li Fei tried to get past me, and I stuck to him like a fly that wouldn't leave, legs moving fast, even when my footwork was a complete mess. "Are you on something?" Li Fei asked, sweating hard. This is what discipline looks like, I said. When it was my turn to attack, I decided this was the moment. I'd been building up to this. I dribbled left and right, very rhythmically in my own head, like a crab learning to walk in Wang Hao's eyes, then burst toward the basket. Rukawa, keyed-style layup. I shouted in my head. In my mind, I jumped high, body hanging in the air perfectly, arm extended like a highlight reel play. In reality, according to my 3 friends watching, I charged like a startled ostrich, limbs moving independently of each other, and the final layup looked like a terracotta soldier attempting to throw a shot put. The ball hit the rim 3 times, then somehow rolled in. I landed and flicked my fringe back smoothly. Well, was that good, or what? Wang Hao walked over slowly and put a hand on my shoulder. The ball went in. But please, never do that in front of girls. I'm scared someone will call an ambulance. After a full hour, Chen Dong and Li Fei were flat on the ground. I had a light sweat on my forehead and was breathing normally. That feeling of my body actually doing what I asked it to do was incredible. During the break, Wang Hao decided to attempt a 3-pointer from beyond the line. He threw it with full confidence. The ball flew in a wild high arc, sailed completely over the backboard, and wedged itself firmly into a gap in the metal support frame about 3 meters up. I gave him a thumbs up. That accuracy. You'd make a carnival ring toss owner cry. Stop talking and get it down. That's my new ball, no ladder. Li Fei jumped twice and touched nothing. Chen Dong went looking for a stick and couldn't reach the right angle. Piggyback? Wang Hao suggested, starting to crouch. You're the lightest, Su Bai, step on me. I looked at the height and shook my head. Too complicated. I walked to the side of the metal pole, grabbed it with both hands, and pulled myself up. 2 weeks of push-ups and core training had quietly built something real in my arms and back. Through the white t-shirt, the muscles across my back visibly tensed as I climbed. His arms. Wang Hao's mouth fell open below me. A few moves and I was at the right height. I grabbed the beam with one hand and knocked the ball free. It dropped to the ground. I slid down and landed with bent knees, clean and easy. Wang Hao hugged his ball and looked at me very seriously. Tell me the truth. Did you secretly join a military summer camp for that girl from the other class? I saw your abs just now. I genuinely did. Those were my ribs, I said with a straight face. Starvation does that. Get out of here. On the way out, we passed a vending machine. A girl had been waiting a long time for her drink, stuck because the dispensing flap was jammed. I straightened it for her without stopping. She looked at me. White t-shirt, terrible basketball skills, bright eyes, clean energy, and went slightly red. Thank you, she said quietly. Wang Hao slung an arm around my shoulder. Big day for you. That pole climb was actually cool. Come on, cold noodles at the school gate. You're buying, right? I quietly felt the crumpled notes in my pocket. The money I'd saved from meals this week. I didn't show any awkwardness. I just took his ball and shoved it into the bag. I'm never buying. Not in this lifetime. But if you buy, I'll personally pick every piece of coriander out of your bowl since your hands shake like an old man. You are unbelievable, he laughed and punched my arm. Fine, I'll pay. You help me get my ball back. Move it, or we'll lose our seats. The sun stretched our 4 shadows long across the court. My layup was still ugly beyond all description. But this feeling of getting stronger, of a body that actually worked, was honestly the best thing I'd felt in a long time. Monday morning. The weekend was gone in a flash. The system panel appeared the moment I opened my eyes. Today's task, walk to school. Reward, body coordination 0.1, Constitution 1. Note, a true male god needs a strong body and the ability to appreciate the scenery along the way. I left the apartment and was waiting on the landing when I heard Su Zhi's door. She came out holding her bag tight, hair still a little messy from sleep. She stopped when she saw me. Just for a second. Morning, I said. My voice was still rough from sleep. Morning. She caught up quickly. No bike today, felt like walking. Stretched the legs. We went down together and out into the old neighborhood streets. Tall parasol trees on both sides, morning light coming through the gaps in the leaves, broken into patches on the pavement. Most students around us were yawning and half asleep. I felt annoyingly awake. I noticed Su Zhi glancing at me sideways. What are you looking at? I asked, eyes forward. Nothing. I was looking at that breakfast stall. Then she tried to walk level with me and clearly noticed something. She stopped and held her hand flat above both our heads, comparing heights. Su Bai, did you suddenly get a lot taller? I looked down at her. She barely reached my shoulder. The training and the system rewards had added a few centimeters over the past few weeks. I'd measured myself last night, past 176, pushing toward 178. I kept a straight face. Is there any possibility that you slept too much this weekend and shrunk? I shrunk. She stamped her foot, sleeve flying. I grew half a centimeter at last week's checkup. You must have put insoles in your shoes. I laughed and kept walking. We rounded the corner near the bakery. The smell of fresh red bean buns hit us immediately, warm, sweet, and completely unfair to anyone trying to have willpower before 8 in the morning. Xu Zi's steps slowed without her seeming to notice. Her eyes drifted toward the window. She swallowed quietly and muttered, "This bakery really shouldn't run their fans so loud this early. It's basically a public disturbance." I looked at her sideways. Completely obvious. Want one? No. She stood up straight immediately, very serious. I made a promise to myself in the mirror this morning. No snacks this week. High-sugar carbs are the enemy of a good body. I'm eating scientifically now. Her stomach growled right on cue. I kept my face calm. What a shame. I was just thinking, if someone wanted one, I'd go queue up and eat all the crispy outer layer for her. That way the carbs would be cut in half. That is not how dieting works. She laughed despite herself, then got quiet and fidgeted with her bag strap. So, hypothetically, if Thursday's PE class is really intense and I burn a lot of energy, would you still buy one then? Her eyes were bright and hopeful, like a squirrel who'd spotted a nut. I'm not being greedy, she added quickly. It's for preventing low blood sugar. I looked at this girl who clearly wanted the bun but was too proud to just say so. Fine. Thursday, I said. After PE. But one condition. What? No skipping meals between now and then. You have to actually eat breakfast every day. I reached toward her hair, then stopped myself and flicked her bag keychain instead. Understood? Her heart did something strange. She looked down at her shoes and pushed the smile off her face. Fine. You worry too much. At the school gate we split up. Me on the 3rd floor, her on the 2nd. Don't be late, I said. Bye. She waved and bounced up the steps like she had extra energy all of a sudden. After a few steps, she grabbed the railing and looked back once. I was already heading inside, moving through the sea of blue and white uniforms, back straight, standing a clear inch above most of the crowd. She touched her warm cheek, turned away, and walked quickly to class. Monday morning self-study hadn't even started, and the classroom was already chaos. The smell of steamed buns and soy milk mixed with the scratch of pens moving fast. Everyone was copying the physics homework they hadn't done over the weekend. Wang Hao saw me come in and immediately called out without looking up. Physics worksheet, did you do it? I need the long questions. I sat down, put my bag on the desk, and reached inside. Then I stopped. Right. The weekend tasks had been running, core training, and that whole pole climbing ball rescue. Not one mention of physics homework. I slowly pulled my hand out empty and looked at Wang Hao. What if I told you I didn't do it either? He stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You? You weren't even gaming. What were you doing all weekend? Building character? I said. Now stop talking and find me a source. He pointed to the front row. The 2 girls ahead of me. Lin Xiao Xiao on the left, round glasses, always into gossip. Qinyu on the right, high ponytail, quiet, beautiful handwriting. Lin Xiao Xiao was already turning around with a neat exercise book in her hand. Here, be careful. Don't bend Qinyu's pages. She passed it over, and her eyes lingered on my face for a moment longer than necessary. When did Su Bai's skin get so clear? Thank you so much, I said, taking the book with both hands like she was handing me a lifeline. So, Lin Xiao Xiao went slightly pink. What face wash do you use? It smells nice. Sulfur soap, I said, already flipping through the pages. 2 yuan a bar. Anti-mite, antibacterial. She didn't say anything after that. I started copying at full speed. My handwriting next to Qinyu's looked like wild grass next to carefully trimmed bonsai, but there was no time for shame. I pushed the pen fast enough to almost leave shadows. Then I hit the last big question. Qinyu had skipped 3 steps and jumped straight to the answer. I could have just copied it blindly, but my small remaining pride in science wouldn't let me copy something I didn't understand at all. I needed to at least see the logic. I chewed my pen cap, staring at the page. A pale, slender hand reached across and tapped the desk lightly near my draft paper. Once. I looked up. Xiao Wanling was looking straight ahead, English book open, as if her hand had done nothing. I looked at where she'd tapped. My own draft. A formula I'd written down. Wrong. I'd forgotten to square a value in the kinetic energy equation. I fixed it immediately, and the rest of the derivation flowed through easily. Thanks, seatmate, I said quietly, smiling a little. She turned a page. Your handwriting is awful, she said, just loud enough for me. Don't tell people we sit together. I didn't mind. I finished the last line and snapped the book shut 1 second before the teacher's footsteps sounded in the corridor. The system updated. New task, the charm of focus. Keep your back straight for all 4 morning classes. No sleeping on the desk. No zoning out for more than 10 minutes. Reward, posture and bearing 0.5, focus 1. I passed Chinyu's book back to the front row and straightened up in my chair. Beside me, Xiao Wanling caught the movement in her peripheral vision. Her hand on the book paused for just a moment. The corner of her mouth moved. Almost a smile, gone in an instant. And then her face went calm and cool again, like it always was. The bell rang, and Wang Hao immediately let out a cry of disaster. Zhou Mo, the class sports rep, had knocked water all over his freshly copied English paper. The two of them argued loudly while the ink bled into a blur. I sat watching with my back straight. The system's posture task was still running, which apparently made me stand out among the crowd of slouching boys. Lin Xiaoxiao turned around and secretly offered me a pack of spicy snack strips. I used to eat these every break without thinking. No thanks, I said. Breakouts. She stared at me like I'd said something strange. I just smiled and looked away. My eyes landed on Xiao Wanling. She was sitting with a red pen, going back over the physics worksheet, circling the exact problem she'd helped me fix earlier, checking the working carefully, brow slightly creased. That focused, stubborn expression was actually kind of cute. Then her lashes flickered, and she caught me looking. She immediately put the pen down, pushed the paper away, and opened her English book like nothing had happened. Lunch. The usual long table by the window. Wang Hao had a mountain of sweet and sour pork. Chen Dong had fried chicken with nothing green on his tray. Is that cat food? Wang Hao stared at my plate. Blanched lettuce, broccoli with shrimp, clear seaweed soup, thin layer of plain rice. Scientific nutrition, I said, peeling a shrimp. High protein, low fat. Good for brain development. People who don't eat meat are basically salted fish, Wang Hao said, stuffing a piece of pork belly into his mouth. Shrimp is meat? I said. Honestly, my sense of taste had changed. After nearly a month of clean eating, I could actually taste the natural sweetness in simple food now. The system was changing more than just my face. Then Xiao Wanling appeared at the cafeteria entrance, tray in hand, looking for a seat. I glanced at what she'd chosen. Large portion of vegetables, small amount of lean protein. Almost exactly the same as mine. Dong muttered something about perfect compatibility. I ignored him. She noticed our group, hesitated, clearly wanted to sit somewhere else, but the other seats were all taken. After 2 seconds, she walked to the far end of our long table and sat down 3 spaces away. The whole table went surprisingly quiet. Even Wang Hao chewed more carefully. Zhou Mo came over, sat across from Xiao Wanling without hesitation, and slid a yogurt bottle her way. Here, cuts the grease. Thank you, but I don't drink sweet things, Xiao Wanling said quietly. Zhou Mo drank it herself and turned to me. Su Bai, I heard you've been doing morning runs. You do look more solid than before. About 2 weeks now, I said. Good. Maybe you won't look like you're dying during the 1,000-meter test anymore. I smiled and didn't answer out loud. But my mind went back to the military training at the start of last year. I was a classic sleep-deprived wreck back then, staying up every night, completely unfit. In that 1,000-meter test, the last half lap felt like my lungs were full of rust and fire. I crossed the line and my legs gave out completely. I collapsed on the grass, face white, chest heaving, basically a dehydrated salted fish. Wang Hao and Chen Dong had dragged me to the shade by my armpits like they were moving a body. It was a joke in our class for months. That's old history, I said, putting down my chopsticks, calm but sure. That won't happen again. Zhou Mo raised an eyebrow, looking a little surprised. I'll be watching you at next week's PE test then, she said with a loud laugh, then turned back to chat with Xiao Wanling. At the far end of the table, Xiao Wanling was eating her broccoli in small, quiet bites. She hadn't joined the conversation, but she'd been listening. Morning runs. So that's why he's been changing. He actually kept it up. All that boring, disciplined routine, he just kept going. Evening self-study. Old Zhang walked in carrying a fresh stack of papers, and for once his voice had actual energy in it. No new lesson tonight. Since everyone slept so well this afternoon, let's wake those brains up. Pop quiz. Conic sections from last week. The classroom erupted in groans. Wang Hao put his head on the desk and made a noise like a dying animal. I took my paper and my temples started throbbing immediately. Conic sections were my personal nightmare. Ellipses, eccentricity, focal coordinates. Every time I saw them, my brain just stopped working. I stared at the first big question, drew coordinate systems all over my scratch paper, and got absolutely nowhere. Sweat ran down the side of my face. They say when people are desperate enough, they can do anything. Math doesn't care about that. If you don't know it, you don't know it. I was about to give up on the third question, a problem about finding the range of values for an ellipse, with enormous calculations and a hidden geometric relationship buried somewhere inside, when I noticed something on my left. Xiao Wanling shifted slightly in her seat, like she was just adjusting her posture. Her scratch paper moved 5 centimeters toward the gap between our desks. I glanced sideways. At the edge of her paper, written in neat, thin handwriting, was a transformed formula and a small auxiliary circle diagram. The hidden condition I'd completely missed. Like a key sliding into a lock, my blocked thinking suddenly opened up. I held my breath and started working through it on my own paper. With 1 minute left before collection, I leaned slightly toward her. "Thank you," I said, barely audible. No response. She calmly pulled her scratch paper back without even glancing my way. When the papers were collected, Wang Hao had completely collapsed in his chair. "I filled everything in," I said when he asked. "You hate ellipses. What happened? Got lucky." Something clicked at the end. He looked suspicious, but I grabbed my bag and steered him toward the door before he could ask more. I was almost out when I turned back. Xiao Wanling was still sitting there, staring at the evening sky through the window, turning her red pen slowly in her fingers. "Not leaving?" I asked. "Waiting for the duty students to finish sweeping," she said, eyes coming back from wherever they'd been. I stopped at the back door and looked at her directly. "That last question tonight. You really saved me. I'm buying you milk tomorrow." "That's settled." I didn't wait for an answer. I waved once and walked out, footsteps already disappearing around the corridor corner. "You don't have to," she started. But the doorway was empty. She looked at the space where I'd been, the unfinished words stuck in her throat. After a moment, she looked back down at her scratch paper full of calculations. In a corner where no one could see, the edge of her mouth moved. Just slightly. Just once. Outside the school gate, Xu Zi was under the big parasol tree kicking fallen leaves in the night breeze. Finally, she waved and came over, lightly hitting my shoulder. "I've been waiting 10 minutes. What took you?" "Surprise quiz. How'd it do?" "Thanks to my seatmate," I said, probably passing. I got home to find the lights still on. Dad was sitting on a low stool working at his lower back with both hands. Mom was in the kitchen, and when she heard me come in, she leaned out and pointed at a ceramic bowl on the table still steaming. "Drink your milk first. It's been warming." I put down my bag and stood at the table for a moment, running my fingers over the strap. "Mom, the teacher said there's a materials fee. About 200 yuan per student." The room went quiet for a second. I knew what 200 yuan meant for this family. Mom didn't ask anything. She wiped her hands on her apron, went into the inner room, and came back quickly. She pressed a small stack of crumpled but neatly folded notes into my hand. "Give it to the teacher first thing tomorrow," she said, her voice easy and light. "Don't worry about money. We have it saved. You just focus on studying. Nothing else." "Understood." Dad stopped rubbing his back and laughed quietly. "Your mom's right. Education doesn't get cut. Go drink your milk and get some rest." I held those notes in my fist, still warm from wherever she'd kept them. "Okay," I said quietly. "There's something I never talk about with my friends. Dad hasn't been able to work for 6 months. His herniated disc was almost healed after a year of rest. Then he lifted something wrong at the start of this year, and it came back worse than before. When it flares up, he can barely walk, let alone carry cement or haul construction materials. During my entire first year of high school, every night after self-study, I'd come home and massage his back before doing anything else. That smell of medicated oil became the defining memory of that whole year. Mom works at a supermarket, sorting stock in the cold storage section. Her knuckles are always red and swollen. In winter, they crack open. Every time I look at her hands, I feel something heavy in my chest. That's why asking for the 200 yuan materials fee tonight had been so hard. I lay on my bed listening to Dad's light cough through the wall. National holiday next week. 7 days. That's exactly when service businesses need extra staff most. I'd already made my decision. I was going to find a part-time job. The week passed in its usual rhythm. 6 a.m. run, egg and milk for breakfast, no fried food, lights out before 10. Wang Hao had started to wonder if I'd joined some kind of cult. Before Friday evening self-study, I checked the system panel. Appearance score, 59.7. Your facial definition is improving, skin condition noticeably better, posture correction showing results. But you're still one step from properly good looking. 59.7. Just 0.3 away from breaking 60. The system had mentioned that every time I crossed a whole number, something would change, a new passive skill, some kind of qualitative leap. I was curious what 60 would bring. Old Zhang came in with his thermos of red dates and wolfberries, took one look at the restless classroom, and started his speech about how this was second year now, how national holiday wasn't a week off from thinking, how certain people, and his eyes drifted toward the back row where Wang Hao immediately shrank, shouldn't spend the whole break gaming all night. Then he said the word everyone was waiting for. Dismissed. The room exploded. Wang Hao was already at my desk. Internet cafe, overnight gaming sessions, promotional deal, all of it laid out like a sales pitch. Shindong backed him up. Li Fei suggested the library instead and got immediately ignored. Coming or not? Wang Hao asked. I zipped up my bag and shook my head. You go? I found a part-time job. That amusement park on the east side. Everyone stopped. You're broke? Wang Hao frowned. Just tell me. I can lend you a few hundred. It's not that. I patted his shoulder. I just want the experience. And I want to buy decent running shoes. They pay 150 a day and include lunch. 150's good, Shindong admitted, but I heard they work you like an animal over there. Animals fine as long as they pay, I said. I turned and glanced at the seat beside mine out of habit. Xiao Wanling was already gone. Her desk was completely clear, not a single thing left on it. She'd walked out the moment old Zhang said dismissed. First one through the door, no goodbye, no happy holiday. Clean exit, no trace left behind. Exactly like her. I shrugged and picked up my bag. Let's go. Xu Zi was waiting under the old locust tree at the school gate. Pale blue hoodie, long legs bright under the streetlights, just starting to flicker on. You get slower every week, she said, adjusting her bag strap. Had to talk to Wang Hao. I fell into step beside her on the outside of the path. Let's go. She'd already heard about my plan. You're really going to work at the amusement park for the whole holiday? That place is a madhouse during Golden Week. They'll work you to death. 150 a day and lunch included, I said. Where else am I getting that? She looked at me sideways for a moment without saying anything. Then, fine. When you're rich, you're buying me red bean buns. The night breeze was cool on our faces. I touched the part-time application form in my pocket. 7 days at 150 was over 1,000 yuan. Enough to cover the materials fee, buy some basics for home, and maybe, actually, get a decent pair of running shoes with cushioning. The system task was even running for the walk home. Task: walk home at moderate pace, keep core engaged. Reward: leg definition adjustment. I straightened up and tightened my core. Why are you walking so strangely? Xu Zi immediately noticed. Your back is completely rigid. Did you pull something? This is called posture management, I said without missing a beat. She rolled her eyes and somehow walked a little faster to keep up. October 1st. Sunny. The autumn heat hadn't backed off yet, 30 degrees by midday. The amusement park entrance was a wall of people. Screaming children, couples laughing, upbeat music blaring on repeat from every speaker. In the staff room, I squeezed myself into a heavy brown bear mascot costume. It hadn't been washed in what smelled like years. Old sweat and rubber, mixed together into something truly unpleasant. There was a small fan inside the suit. It made a sound like a mosquito and moved approximately no air. Bear, stop dragging your feet. Guests are already in. The team leader in the sun visor was already pointing at me, walkie-talkie in hand. Coming, I said. My voice came out muffled and slightly ridiculous through the giant bear head. I stepped outside into a wall of heat. The system popped up immediately. Holiday limited task detected. Unyielding will. Task: Work in high temperature for 4 hours without removing the head. Reward. Appearance 0.2, major endurance boost. I nearly choked. 4 hours straight without taking the head off. In this heat? That was dehydration by design. But 0.2 points. That would bring me to 59.9. One step from 60. Fine, I muttered, waddled out into the main path like a penguin, and was immediately surrounded by a mob of excited children grabbing my tail and hugging my legs. 1 hour passed. Sweat ran into my eyes, and I couldn't wipe it. My shirt was completely soaked and stuck to my skin. 2 hours. Every breath I took inside the head was recycled hot air. My legs were cement. I kept waving, making heart gestures, and at one point had to do a clumsy dance for someone filming a short video. Then a boy of about 7 or 8, holding a half-eaten sausage on a stick, ran up from behind and kicked me hard in the back of the knee. I was already running on empty. The kick knocked my balance, and I went down on one knee, hard, onto the concrete. My knee screamed. The boy pointed at me, laughing. The bear fell over. Big dumb bear. His parent didn't apologize. They kept filming and said, "Wow, that bear is so weak. Did it skip lunch?" Something burned in my chest. I wanted to stand up, take the head off, and say a few very direct things to that parent. I didn't. The job paid $150. There were 40 minutes left. I pressed both hands to the ground, breathed through it, and slowly, unsteadily pushed myself back to my feet. Instead of getting angry after the kid kicked me, I just turned around, patted my own backside, and shrugged at him, like saying that barely tickled. The crowd around us laughed. The mood shifted. The parent looked embarrassed, pocketed their phone, and dragged the kid away before he could try again. My knee was still throbbing. The system timer said 10 minutes left. Those 10 minutes were the hardest. My vision was going blurry at the edges. Every movement felt like I was spending something I didn't have. Then 2 girls walked out from under a nearby umbrella. One of them was wearing a white dress, long hair down, that unmistakable cool composure completely out of place in a noisy amusement park. Through the narrow mesh window of the bare head, I stared. Xiao Wanling. What was she doing here? The younger girl with her, looked like a little cousin, was already pointing at me excitedly. Jijia, that bear. I want a photo. She dragged Xiao Wanling over. I wanted to move away, but my legs had stopped cooperating entirely. Excuse me, can we take a photo? Xiao Wanling asked politely, same cool voice as always. I didn't speak. I just nodded and held up a peace sign with both paws. The little cousin grabbed my arm happily. Xiao Wanling took the photo. The cousin ran off satisfied. But Xiao Wanling didn't leave immediately. She looked at me, this wobbly, overheated bear swaying slightly in the sun, and her brow creased just a little. She took an unopened bottle of ice water from her bag and placed it in my hand. You're working hard, she said quietly. Then she turned and walked away, her dress swinging in a clean arc behind her. I stood there holding the bottle. The cold cut right through the thick glove. For one moment my foggy head cleared. Then the system rang. Task complete. Appearance 0.2, major endurance boost. Score 59.9. Willpower breakthrough detected. Bonus reward, appearance 0.1. Congratulations. Appearance score has broken through 60. A wave of cool energy shot up from the base of my spine straight to the top of my head. The exhaustion that had been crushing me, most of it just lifted. Milestone reached. Beginner, male god. Passive skill unlocked. Fresh youth energy. Description: even when sweating heavily, you won't appear messy. Instead, you give off a bright, energetic impression. Hidden feature unlocked. True sight. You can now view the appearance score of others. My replacement arrived running, dripping sweat. You did 4 hours straight? Go rest. The team leader was worried you'd collapse in there. I took off the head and handed it over. He looked at me, then looked again. You're actually pretty good looking, he said, confused. Why are you doing hard labor? You should be in the parade float team. I just smiled. I knew what had changed. Same face as before, no surgery, no tricks. But something in the overall impression had shifted. The dullness was gone. I went to the bathroom and splashed water on my face. The mirror showed the same features I'd always had. But the tired, slightly hunched energy had completely disappeared. Clear skin, open expression, something sharp and clean about the whole picture. So this is what 60 looks like. I got my meal box, but had no appetite. I took Xiao Wanling's water bottle and found a bench at the quieter edge of the park to sit down. I just opened the bottle when I noticed two people in the shade of a tree nearby. Xiao Wanling and her little cousin. The girl was sitting on a bench rubbing her ankle, clearly hurt. Xiao Wanling was crouched in front of her checking it, side profile beautiful in the dappled light. Yue, can you walk? She asked, and for the first time I heard something close to worry in her voice. Jia, it hurts so much. I can't. The little girl was on the edge of tears. Xiao Wanling looked around. The exit was far. The park's electric carts were nowhere to be seen, and she was slim enough that carrying a 7-year-old that whole distance would be a real struggle. I stood up and walked over. Need help? She looked up at the sound of my voice. When she saw me standing against the light, old white t-shirt, damp hair, worn jeans, something flickered in her expression. She looked at me for a moment. Su Bai, she said, not quite certain, with a rare trace of surprise in her voice. It's me, I said, smiling. I looked at the little girl's ankle. Not too serious. She just twisted it running too fast. Nothing's broken, I told them, but she shouldn't walk on it. I crouched down and patted my shoulders. Come on, little one. I'll carry you out. Xiao Wanling started to say it wasn't necessary, then looked at her cousin's scrunched-up pained face and swallowed the words. Sorry for the trouble. Don't be. I still owe you for that math problem. I hoisted the girl up easily. The system's endurance boost had done its job. Carrying a small child felt like nothing. Xiao Wanling straightened the girl's skirt and told her not to wriggle. The girl wrapped her arms around my neck. Thank you, big brother. You smell nice. Like sunshine. That's just sweat, I said, laughing. Hold on tight. We walked through the park toward the exit, the three of us in the tree shade. Our shadows stretched long in the late afternoon light. You work here? Xiao Wanling asked after a moment, looking at my face. Just earning some pocket money, I said simply. She was quiet for a few steps. Then she glanced at my sweat-soaked t-shirt, then at the half-empty water bottle in my hand, the one she'd given the bear earlier. That bear, something clicked in her expression. That was you? I looked at the bottle. Same brand. Didn't deny it. You figured it out. That water genuinely saved me. Thank you. Her steps slowed slightly. She was replaying it. The clumsy, wobbling bear in the heat. The kid who kicked it. The moment she'd handed over the water out of simple sympathy without knowing it was me. You. She started, then couldn't find the words. What? I turned to look at her. Our eyes met. She looked away quickly toward the flower beds along the path. Nothing. Just. You look different today somehow. Probably because honest work suits me, I said, keeping a straight face. She couldn't stop it. The corner of her mouth curved. Just slightly. That cold composure softened for a second. We reached the main gate. A black Audi A8 was waiting in the temporary parking zone, hazard lights blinking. A middle-aged driver in a white shirt and white gloves came forward the moment he saw Xiao Wanling, bowing slightly, asking about the little girl's ankle with careful concern. I understood immediately. My seatmate's family was considerably better off than I'd imagined. The driver gently took the girl from my back. She pressed her face against the car window and waved hard at me. Goodbye, big brother. You're so handsome. Good taste, I said, tapping my nose, waving back. Xiao Wanling got her cousin settled, then turned to face me. The last of the evening sun was falling across both of us. Su Bai, yeah? Thank you. Really, she said it simply and directly, none of her usual cool deflection. It was nothing. I waved it off. Ice her ankle when you get home. She pressed her lips together like she wanted to say something else. In the end, she just nodded, bent down, and got into the car. Through the back window, as the car pulled away and turned the corner, I caught one last glimpse of her looking back. Then she was gone. I stretched my arms above my head, and then froze mid-stretch. Oh no! I slapped my thigh. True sight. The new skill the system had unlocked. The one that lets me see anyone's appearance score. Xiao Wanling had been standing right in front of me. We'd even made direct eye contact, which was exactly the right condition to activate it. And I'd completely forgotten. The top-ranked girl in school. The person everyone stared at in every hallway. Right there in front of me. And I'd spent the whole time carrying a child and chatting. The perfect test subject, wasted. I stared at the road where the car had disappeared. I could have finally known what 60 points actually means compared to a real standard. I turned and tried to activate it on a girl waiting at the bus stop nearby. The system replied flatly. Target too far and not in visual center. Cannot assess. I couldn't exactly run over and stare at a stranger's face. That would end with me getting reported. Fine. We sit next to each other every day, I muttered. There'll be another chance. My phone buzzed. A payment notification from the part-time job group chat. I looked at the number added to my balance. The frustration evaporated immediately. I started humming, shoved my hands in my pockets, and walked toward the bus stop with a light step. Dinner first. Back to work tomorrow. The rest of Golden Week passed in the same brutal rhythm. Every morning the system woke me before my alarm with some kind of exercise task, stair climbing, core activation, whatever it felt like that day. I drag myself off the mattress, work up a sweat, shove down a couple of cold steamed buns, and head straight to the park to put on the bear's suit. The first 2 days were genuinely rough. Sweat soaked through everything. But by day 3 and 4, my body had quietly adapted. The system had triggered a holiday-limited task, unyielding will, rewarding me with 0.2 appearance points for each full day of work without stopping. What had started as just a way to earn money had turned into an unexpected attribute farming session. I almost started finding the rubber smell pleasant. On the evening of October 6th, I got home, jumped straight into a cold shower, and pulled up the panel while toweling my hair. Appearance score, 61.1. You've left the background character category. You now occasionally get a second glance on the street. Over 1 full point in just a few days. That should have taken 2 or 3 months of normal progress. I leaned into the mirror. Same eyes, same nose. But the whole face just looked cleaner. All that sweating and the system's adjustments had tightened and cleared my skin. The dullness around my nose was completely gone. And my eyes, there was something alive in them now. The suffering was worth it, I said to my reflection. I checked my WeChat balance. 900 yuan sitting there. Enough for the materials fee, some basics for home, mom's hand cream for her cracked knuckles, and still a little left over for shoes. One more day of holiday. One more shift would push me past 1,000 and earn another 0.2 points. I set my alarm for 7 and was about to sleep when my phone buzzed. The profile picture was a cartoon rabbit staring blankly at a carrot. Shu Z. Poke. I stared at it, then typed back a question mark. You alive? Was alive. Nearly wasn't after that. What are you doing? Counting my enormous fortune and deciding how to spend it. She typed for a long time. Deleted it. Typed again. Finally sent. The weather forecast says tomorrow is only 22 degrees. I stared at my screen. So, you want me to bring you a winter coat? Su Bai, you are such an idiot. Cleaver emoji. Cleaver emoji. I mean, the weather is nice tomorrow. Perfect for outdoor activities. Do you understand? I laughed out loud, imagining her sitting cross-legged on the couch, smacking a pillow. I decided to keep playing dumb. You're right. Great weather. Perfect for wearing a bear suit at the amusement park. I'm planning one final day of noble labor to enrich my humble wallet. 2 minutes of silence. Then, apparently the red leaves at Qingyun Mountain are starting to turn. It's not even deep autumn yet. They're probably just dying. Su Bai, can you be a normal person? My mom has work tomorrow. My dad's gone fishing. I'm home alone and bored to death. I was going to take pity on you and bring you outside for some fresh air, but if you want to be a workaholic, then fine. I'll go by myself. The whole message came without a single punctuation mark. I could picture her face, completely red, fingers flying. She wanted to ask me to hang out, but she'd built this whole elaborate structure of reasons and excuses around it instead of just saying so. Very her. I looked at the 7 o'clock alarm, thought about 150 and 0.2 points. Then I thought about her hiking alone and complaining about it to me for the next 6 months. Money never runs out, I said to myself. Even a hard-working donkey needs a day off. I deleted the 7 o'clock alarm. What time? Instant reply. 8 a.m. Usual spot. If you're late, you're a puppy. Can we do 9? The donkey needs sleep. 8:30. That's my final offer. Bring water and wear proper shoes. Ghost me and you're dead. Good night. Her icon went gray immediately. I shook my head, tossed my phone onto the pillow, and stretched until every joint cracked. Mountain hiking, I said to the ceiling, smiling despite myself. The last day of the holiday. Cool autumn sunlight came through thin clouds instead of blazing straight down. I slept until 8 with no alarm. The system panel woke me instead. Today's task, outdoor aerobic activity, 2 hours or more. Reward, cardio improvement, body fat minus 0.1%. Perfect timing, I said, spitting out toothpaste foam. Free task points from a day that was already planned. I opened my wardrobe and pushed all the old baggy t-shirts to the side. The white t-shirt and gray straight-leg trousers from the wholesale market, 65 yuan, still the best value purchase I'd ever made. I put them on and checked the mirror. The white shirt held its shape across my shoulders. The gray trousers made my legs look straight and long. The morning light hit my face at a clean angle. Who is this handsome young man, and how did he get into my house? I said to my reflection, then grabbed my water bottle and headed downstairs. Su Bai was already at the building entrance, back to me, head down reading her phone. Cream sun jacket, white t-shirt underneath, fitted light blue jeans, neat short hair swinging as she moved. A stuffed backpack sat at her feet. Been waiting long? I walked up. She looked up. The sun was directly on my face. The sentence she had ready. What took you so long? Never made it out. She scanned me from top to bottom, then back up again. Something flickered in her expression that she covered fast. Same face. Same cheap clothes. Why does he look so? Her ears went warm. She looked away. Who's looking at you? I was checking your outfit. Flea market, 3 for 10 yuan, clearly. Wholesale market premium goods, 65 yuan, I said calmly. Mainly it works because the person wearing it is good looking. I bent and picked up her backpack. My arm felt the weight immediately. Are you climbing a mountain or going to war? Is this full of rocks? That's supplies. She grabbed for the strap. I can carry it myself. You're already not very tall. This thing will compress your spine another 2 centimeters. I swung it onto one shoulder and started walking. Su Bai, I will end you. We headed out through the old neighborhood, past the breakfast stalls already filling the air with the smell of fried dough. I stopped at the hot soy milk cart. 1 second. I came back with 2 warm cups of sweet soy milk and 2 tea eggs and handed her one. She wrapped both hands around the cup. The warmth reached her fingers and the small irritation from a moment ago smoothed out completely. You have some conscience after all, she muttered, taking a sip. The 302 bus to Qingyan Mountain arrived just as we reached the stop. Lucky. We went straight to the back row. The moment we sat down, Su Bai started unloading her bag. Braised beef her mom made. Washed cherry tomatoes. 2 cans of energy drink for me. Yogurt pouches. I stared at the pile of food containers filling my lap. The mountain is a few hundred meters high, I said. We're going for a day hike, not surviving in the wilderness. Better to have it and not need it. She stuffed a cherry tomato in her mouth, cheeks puffed out. Besides, you're the pack mule. You need fuel. I didn't argue. I opened an energy drink and looked out the window. The city buildings gradually gave way to rolling green hills. The bus swayed. Su Bai had apparently not slept well the night before. The excitement faded fast and drowsiness took over. Her head started dipping slowly, then drifted toward the window. The bus hit a bump in the road. Thud. Her head knocked solidly against the glass. She wrinkled her nose and made a small, unhappy sound, but didn't wake up, and her head was already tilting back toward the window for round 2. I sighed, reached over, and wedged her stuffed backpack between her head and the glass. She felt the softness, turned her cheek into it, found a comfortable position, and her breathing slowed into something long and steady. I looked at her sideways, quiet as a cat, long lashes casting small shadows on her cheeks in the gentle morning light. Qingyan Mountain wasn't particularly high, but it had a famous staircase section, supposedly 999 steps, that humbled people every year. At the stone arch at the bottom, Su Bai put her hands on her hips and pointed at me. First one to the halfway pavilion wins. Loser buys bubble tea. Large. Extra tapioca. You sure? I said. I've been doing special forces training all week. She looked me up and down. In her mind, I was still the guy who nearly died during the 1,000-meter run. I'm the school relay team. I'll give you a 5-minute head start. Before I could answer, she was already bounding up the steps. Don't sprint right at the start, I called after her. You can't tell me what to do. Her ponytail swung as she disappeared around the first bend. I followed at a steady pace. The endurance the system had built, and the days baking inside that bear suit, weren't just points on a screen. My breathing barely changed on these stairs. 1 step at a time, comfortable rhythm. The first 10 minutes, she was ahead, occasionally turning to mock me for being slow. 20 minutes in, her arms stopped swinging and found her knees instead. 30 minutes in, she was holding onto a crooked tree by the side of the path, face red, fringe plastered to her forehead with sweat, lungs working hard. I walked past her at the same unhurried pace. I stopped 2 steps ahead and turned around. School relay team, you said? You cheated, she gasped between breaths. Are you even human? I'll take that as a compliment. I pulled a water bottle from the side of the pack and handed it over. Drink. Rest. At this pace, we'll still be here after dark. She grabbed it and drank without any concern for dignity, water running down the corner of her mouth along her neck. I looked at the trees. How are you not even breathing hard? She said when she could speak again. You used to get tired walking to the vending machine. I told you. Building character. I tapped my leg. Growing. People don't grow stronger by just growing, she muttered. But she had no energy to argue. She stared up at the winding steps above and looked briefly hopeless. Can you keep going? I asked. Yes. Obviously yes. That stubborn streak came back immediately. That bubble tea is mine. She stood up, took one step, and her calf trembled. She nearly went down. I caught her arm before she could. Her skin was warm under my hand. Stop pretending, I said, and didn't let go. We'll go slow. I've got you. She tried to pull away once, then realized it was actually easier this way and stopped arguing. Our distance closed. She could smell the laundry detergent on my shirt mixing with the fresh mountain air. From that angle, she could see my jawline clearly, my throat moving with each breath. Her heart rate jumped higher than it had during the whole climb. Must be the altitude. Definitely oxygen deprivation. Did you get taller again? She asked, just to say something. Probably. I kept my eyes on the steps. Finally admitting you can only see my shoulder. I don't care about your shoulder. Half an hour more, slow and steady, and we finally reached the halfway pavilion. Su Bai collapsed on the stone bench immediately, legs completely finished. I opened the container of braised beef her mom had packed. The smell hit us both at once. She sat up instantly and stuffed a piece in her mouth. You do have a conscience. While she was eating, I remembered something. The true sight skill I'd unlocked and completely forgotten to use on Xiao Wanling. Right in front of me now was a perfectly good test subject. System. Activate true sight. A faint shimmer crossed my vision. Numbers appeared above Su Bai's head. Su Bai. Appearance score, 76.5, still developing, not fully set. Features, excellent bone structure, cool pale skin, exceptional leg proportions. Assessment, an unpolished gem. With minimal effort, the kind of person who lights up a room. I stared. 76.5, I'd nearly killed myself to reach 61.1. This girl I'd grown up with, who I'd always just thought of as a loud tomboy next door, was sitting at almost 80 points like it was nothing. I looked at her face a beat too long. She caught it, stopped chewing, and touched her cheek self-consciously. What? Do I have something on my face? I closed the skill and smiled. Nothing. Just thinking this beef is really good. Weirdo. She shoved a piece at me. Stop staring and eat. I took it and looked out at the autumn colors spreading across the hills below us. The wind up here was genuinely nice. Hey, Su Bai. Yeah? She looked at the distance, voice quieter than usual. Next time, if you go to another part-time job, or just go somewhere, can you bring me along? I know I'm useless, but I could carry the bag. She paused. Even though you carried it today, I turned and looked at her. The tips of her ears were faintly pink in the sunlight. I tossed my empty water bottle cleanly into the bin 2 meters away. Sure, but forget carrying the bag. Just don't make me carry you down the mountain halfway through. Su Bai, I want to fight you right now. Her voice echoed off the stone pavilion. A group of birds scattered from the trees below us. Around noon, the pavilion wind turned cool enough to give us goosebumps after the sweat dried. Su Bai stretched her legs across the stone bench, finishing the last piece of beef with her cheeks puffed out like a hamster. I checked the system panel quietly. Outdoor aerobic task exceeded. Reward delivered. A warm current spread up my spine, and the ache in my calves faded noticeably. This was the reward of consistent effort. I'd climbed most of a mountain and barely felt it. 10 more minutes, then we pushed to the top, I said. Please have mercy, came the groan from behind me. 10 minutes later, I turned around. She glared, peeled herself off the stone bench, and came anyway. The second half was steeper. I slowed down on purpose. Su Bai complained the whole way but kept up, grabbing the straps of my backpack on the steep parts and letting herself be towed along like an attachment. Are you cheating somehow? You haven't sweated once. Clear mind, cool body, I said. Get out of here. When we finally reached the summit observation platform, she doubled over with her hands on her knees, face as red as a ripe apple. Then she stood straight, turned toward the open valley, and yelled at the top of her lungs. "SBA with a QTI is a huge idiot." The sound echoed across the mountain. Birds scattered. Several strangers turned to stare. I took 2 casual steps sideways and looked at the scenery with great interest. "Why are you moving away?" she called, laughing now. "Didn't want people to think I was the one responsible for you." She elbowed me and took the water bottle I offered. Then her voice went conspiratorial. "Hey, that new transfer student in your class, she sits next to you, right?" I raised an eyebrow. "How does your information network reach into the boys section? Don't underestimate the girls' network." "Is she really that pretty?" "Even the gaming guys in my class are talking about her." Xiao Wanling's face appeared in my mind. That cool composure, the perfectly straight posture. "She's very pretty." "Yeah," I said. The water bottle in Xu Zi's hand crumpled slightly. "Pretty, sure, but I heard she's kind of strange. Doesn't talk to anyone. Always that cold expression." "Not strange," I said. "Just quiet. The type that focuses completely on studying." "Right, quiet." She stretched the word out, then turned and fixed me with a direct stare. "So all this morning running in bearsuit suffering and acting like a special forces recruit. Don't tell me it's because she's pretty and you're trying to impress her." The wind picked up at the summit, blowing her fringe around. I laughed. "That's not it." "Then what is it?" She wasn't letting go, 3 parts skeptical, 7 parts searching. I sighed and tossed my empty bottle cleanly into the bin nearby. "Honestly, remember how I nearly didn't survive the 1,000-meter test last year? My body was terrible. I just decided I didn't want to collapse before the college entrance exam. That's it." I said it plainly, eyes steady. No hesitation. She studied my face for several seconds. Then her shoulders relaxed and she looked away, muttering just quiet enough that she maybe didn't intend me to hear. "Fair enough. You'd need a miracle to get a cold genius like that anyway." "What was that?" "Nothing." I said the view is really nice. She turned toward the mountains and tucked her windblown hair behind her ear. The corner of her mouth curved up just slightly. I stood beside her looking at the same hills, but thinking about something else entirely. 900 yuan in my pocket. Time to buy something for Mom and Dad on the way home. "Let's go." "Down the mountain. Already?" "We just got here. We'll miss dinner otherwise." The mention of food activated her immediately. "Fine. Let's go." Going down was harder than going up. 2 steps in, her legs started shaking on each stair like she was walking on cotton. I heard the shuffling behind me and stopped. She was gripping a tree by the path, legs trembling badly. I reached my hand back. "Hold on." She looked at my hand, then up my arm to my face. Her cheeks went warm. She looked away. "I don't need help. My legs just developed their own opinions about staying on this step a little longer." But her hand reached out and grabbed my wrist anyway. The warmth of her palm came through clearly. On the bus back, the afternoon sun came through the windows warm and soft. Xu Zi was asleep within minutes of sitting down. When the shopping mall stop was announced, I reached over and waved my hand in front of her face. "Wake up. We're getting off here." She blinked at the glittering shopping center outside, completely disoriented. "Did we move?" "I have things to buy," I said, picking up her bag from the seat. "Come help me." Outside, the cold air from the mall entrance woke her up properly. She looked around, then looked at me suspiciously. "This place is miles from our neighborhood, and everything here costs a fortune. You bought breakfast this morning, now a shopping mall. Did you take a wrong turn into someone else's life?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the balance screen. She counted the digits slowly. Then her hand flew to her mouth. 900? Where did that come from? Even with 7 days of work, that seems. "You didn't do anything illegal, did you?" "Mascot costumes," I said flatly. 6 days inside a bear suit. High temperature bonus and perfect attendance. She went quiet. 38-degree weather. A thick, airtight fur costume where the inside temperature hit 50 degrees. Most people couldn't last 10 minutes. She'd noticed my pale face lately, the small red rash on my hands. "That's the hardest job in the whole park," I said. Nobody wanted it. The team leader paid well because he was desperate. She looked at my face for a moment without saying anything. Then, "You really are going to work yourself to death, aren't you?" "The boss has money now," I said, nodding toward the entrance. "So I'm buying some proper things. Why come here, though? The markup is insane. Seasons changing. Mom works in cold storage. Her hands crack open every winter. I want to get her a decent hand cream. And Dad's back has been hurting again lately. I saw those massage belt things on TV. Thought I'd check one out. Shu Zi stopped walking. She looked at me. Cheap t-shirt, afternoon sun on my face. The boy who'd just spent a week baking inside a fur costume and had already decided exactly where every yuan of it was going. What about you? She asked quietly. Me? I scratched my head. I don't need anything. I wear the school uniform every day. My shoes are fine. If there's enough left over, I'll buy you a milk. If there isn't, you can watch me drink mine. Get away from me, she laughed, but something soft hit her chest and stayed there. She watched my back as I turned toward the entrance. She'd been looking at that back for over 10 years. Somehow, right now, those shoulders looked wider than she remembered. Stop daydreaming. I need your opinion on things, I called back. Coming. She jogged to catch up, already confident. Buying things is my specialty. Watch me deploy the Shu family bargaining technique. Nobody is taking one extra yuan from this little rich boy. The ground floor was all cosmetics counters, lit up brighter than an operating room. I was immediately lost among the rows of bottles and jars. Shu Zi took charge. She steered me past the big brand counters and stopped at one specializing in repair and moisture care. This brand's hand cream is the best for healing. Not greasy either, which matters since your mom wears gloves at work. She smoothed the tester onto the back of her hand and held it out. Smell. Light herbal scent. Nothing sharp. I looked at the price. 120 yuan. That stung. But I thought of Mom's hands, the cracked knuckles, the medical tape she wraps around her fingers in winter. That one, I said. Wait. Shu Zi held my arm before I could reach for my phone. She turned to the sales assistant with a big sweet smile. Hi. Big sister, we're students buying a birthday gift for his mom. This one is perfect, but a tiny bit over budget. Do you have any gift sets that have been opened, or any promotions coming up? The assistant looked at the two of us, school uniforms, clean faces, and my extremely obvious expression of I will spend whatever it takes for my mom, and softened. Actually, we have a 2-pack gift box with a small dent on the corner. If that's okay, 80% off, plus 2 sample sizes. Thank you so much. You're so kind. Your skin is amazing, by the way. Shu Zi was already holding her hand out for the bag. Hand cream secured. We headed to the 4th floor electronics section. I'd spotted a lower back massage belt online before. Heat therapy and vibration combined. Wearable while moving. The price tag said 499. Hand cream plus this, 600 yuan. Materials fee takes another 200 and something. That left about 100 for everything else. Any discount possible? I asked the middle-aged man behind the counter. He barely looked up from his phone. Fixed price. No bargaining. I was about to look for a cheaper model when Shu Zi stepped in front of me. Uncle, she said in the sweetest possible voice, we saw the same model online for 420. And look, this display box has been sitting here collecting dust. It's clearly been here a while. The packaging is old. The owner looked up. Online ones are refurbished. Mine are genuine. We're genuinely trying to buy. That's why we came in person. She pointed at the display unit beside him. What about this floor model? If it works fine, we'll take it. Floor models always get discounted, right? I pulled her sleeve. Floor models are a bit. Wipe it with alcohol, good as new. The motor is all that matters. She gave me a look that said trust me and stay quiet. The owner hesitated. That unit had been on the floor for 6 months. Floor model. 450, 400. Shu Zi said, no hesitation. We're high school students. We save up forever for this kind of money. National holidays almost over. Consider it your opening sale. His dad has a bad back. This is a gift of filial piety. Help us out. She looked at him with wide, hopeful eyes. I stood beside her making my best poor but devoted son face. The owner waved his hand in defeat. Fine. 400. Students these days are sharper than monkeys. I paid immediately before he could change his mind. We walked out into the early evening. I did the math quickly. Hand cream 96, massage belt 400, total 496. 404 left. Materials fee would take 200 and something, leaving around 200. Shu Zi, you're incredible, I said. You just saved me nearly 100 yuan. She was walking beside me, turning the free sample the assistant had given her over in her fingers. She didn't smile the way I expected. She looked at me sideways. You forgot about those running shoes, didn't you? I looked down at my feet. The soles were nearly flat. There was a small split on the side I'd been ignoring. Still wearable, I said. I'm not sprinting 100 meters. I don't need good cushioning. She didn't say anything. but something in her expression went quiet and tight. "Come on," I said, steering toward the convenience store nearby. "I said I'd buy you milk. You have barely any money left. Enough for this." A few minutes later, we were standing by a flower bed outside. I handed her the cold, fresh milk, the better kind, less sharp tasting, and kept the regular cheap one for myself. She watched me tip my head back and take a long drink, the evening light catching the edge of my jaw. "Su Bai, yeah?" I had a ring of milk around my mouth. "Next time you do a part-time job, let me come too." She was chewing her straw, voice a little muffled, but her eyes were clear and steady. "I want to earn money and buy things for your mom too." I blinked. Then I reached over and messed up her hair. "Sure. Though I'm not sure what your job title would be. I'd be the supervisor." Get off me." I carried the bags home through the familiar narrow lanes under the orange streetlights, pushed open our door, and was met immediately by the smell of dinner. Mom poked her head out of the kitchen, spatula in hand. "You're back. Must be exhausted from climbing. You look like you got some sun." I tucked the bags behind my back. "Legs are a bit sore. That's all." Dad was lying on the sofa with a thick pillow under his lower back, an old newspaper in his hand. He sat up a little when he saw me. "Mountain wind was good today? Fresh air does you good. Really nice up there," I said. I looked at the simple dinner set out on the table, 2 dishes and a soup, and felt something warm settle in my chest. I didn't sit down yet. I put the shopping bag in the middle of the table. "Mom, Dad, I bought you something." Mom froze, hands stopped mid-apron knot. Dad put down his newspaper. "Where did you?" Mom came closer and saw the hand cream gift box, then the heavy massage belt package. Her voice changed. "Where did you get money for this?" I unwrapped the hand cream first. "Mom, this one's good for cracking. Put it on before your shift." Then I moved the massage belt over to Dad. "This model specifically helps with herniated discs. 20 minutes before bed every night. Works more evenly than my hands." The room went completely silent. Mom and Dad looked at each other. Not with joy, with alarm. Dad's voice went serious. "Su Bai, tell me the truth. This is several hundred yuan. Where did a student get this kind of money? Did you borrow it? Did you do something?" Mom's eyes were already going red. "We're poor, but we don't do anything wrong in this family. You said you were hiking, going to the library. What were you actually doing?" I looked at their faces, both braced like something terrible had happened. "I worked a part-time job," I said quickly. "At the amusement park. Mascot costume. 6 days." They both stared. "Part-time job?" they said together. The word, part-time job, hit the room like a stone in still water. Mom dropped everything and started checking me over like she was looking for injuries. Dad's hunched back went straight, brows locked tight. "You reckless child." Mom's voice went up several levels. She grabbed my arm. "The amusement park? Were you handing out flyers? Carrying things? In that sun?" "Mom, gently. That hurts." I laughed and steered her into a chair. "I wasn't moving boxes. I was the mascot. The big stuffed costume. You just stand there, take photos with kids. Sweated a lot. That's all." I emptied my pockets onto the table. A crumpled pile of hundreds, 50s, and a few sweaty small notes. "Mom, that materials fee you gave me. I earned it back. 6 days, 150 a day, 900 total." I smoothed the notes flat and pushed them toward her. "The massage belt was 400, hand cream just under 100. Spend about half. The rest covers the materials fee and a little extra for the household." Mom looked at the money. Her lips moved, but nothing came out. She took my hand instead. She saw the faint red marks on my palm immediately, small blisters from the heat inside the costume, already popped and healed over. I'd done it quietly so nobody would notice. She'd noticed anyway. Her eyes went red. "You foolish child," she said quietly, voice thick. "We haven't fallen so low that you need to suffer like this. You're still growing. This isn't your burden to carry. It's called social practice," I said quickly and pushed the hand cream into her arms to change the subject. "Try it. The sales lady said it makes your hands soft as tofu." And look, I flexed my arm dramatically, showing off muscles that were genuinely there now, but which I exaggerated for effect. I even got stronger. Good outcome all around. Dad had been silent the whole time, turning his newspaper over in his hands. He looked at me through the smoke of the cigarette he'd quietly lit. His face was complicated, pride and pain mixed together, and something underneath that looked like shame, the kind fathers feel when their sons have to work for what should have been provided. "All right," he said finally, his voice low. He went, He earned it. That's his ability. Stop wiping your eyes like something terrible happened. He paused, then pushed the money back across the table toward me. Keep the materials fee. Keep the 200 as well. Your mother and I have wages. We don't go hungry. He nodded at my feet. Those shoes have been coming apart for months. The glue won't hold through rain. Take that money and buy a proper pair. Nothing fancy, just something that fits and holds together. I tucked my feet back instinctively. These are fine. Take it. His voice was firm. You earn money. You learn to use it properly. Don't go to school looking worn out. I knew Dad. When he spoke like that, pushing back was just being difficult. I smiled and pocketed the money. Fine, I won't argue. When I'm rich one day, I'll buy you a proper electric scooter. The tension finally broke. I immediately unpacked the massage belt and plugged it in before anyone could protest further. Dad, I actually can't return this one. Shop policy on discounted floor models. No returns once you leave. Mom looked alarmed. That's not legal. Special sale items are like that. Mom? I connected everything smoothly without stopping. Besides, Dad needs it right now. Come on. Dad, try it. He grumbled about wasting money on something 2 medicated patches could fix, but he lay down on the sofa anyway. I pressed the massage head against his lower back and switched it on. The low vibration hummed through the room. Oh, Dad exhaled slowly, brow smoothing out. That's actually strong. That's just the first setting. It has infrared heating too. Promotes circulation. I watched his face relax. Better than my hands, right? Not bad, he admitted, eyes closing. Money well spent. Mom sat nearby, turning the hand cream tin over, lifting the lid to smell the chamomile. She kept saying it was too expensive. She couldn't stop smiling. Dinner was just green pepper and potato strips, tomato, and egg soup. Nothing special, but it tasted better than anything I'd eaten all week. Dad talked more than usual. He asked about the amusement park. I told him the funny parts. The kid who wiped ice cream all over my costume, the foreign tourist who grabbed my paws and made me dance. After dinner, I ran my hand through my fringe. It had grown past my eyebrows, and I'd been hiding behind it for months. If I was serious about changing, the hair had to go. Mom, going to get a haircut. Old Wong at the gate is fine. Don't go to those fancy salons charging 50 yuan for a trim. Old Wong's barbershop had 2 chairs and one old uncle who'd been cutting hair in the neighborhood for decades. 10 yuan for students. Nothing fancy, but fast and honest. Little Bai, haven't seen you in a while. Same as usual? Just a trim? I sat down and looked at myself in the mirror. The hair hanging over my eyes. I shook my head. Short this time, uncle. Shaved on the sides, some layers on top. I want my forehead showing. Cleaner, he laughed. Now that's right. Young men should show their faces. A girl hides behind her hair, not a boy. Hold still. The clippers hummed. Hair fell onto the cape in small dark clumps. I closed my eyes and waited, feeling something like quiet anticipation. 20 minutes later, I sat back up and looked in the mirror. I genuinely paused for a second. Same features as before. Nothing dramatic had changed. But without all that heavy fringe, my eyes were fully visible for the first time. After weeks of proper sleep and exercise, they were clear in a way they hadn't been in years. No longer the dull, evasive look I'd carried through most of high school. My brow bone showed clean, my jawline was sharp. The forehead made the whole face look more open. Add the passive skill the system had given me, and the overall effect was just fresh. Neat. Like someone who actually had their life together. Not bad, little Bai, Uncle Wong said, blowing the last stray hairs off my neck. You've got good bone structure. Why were you hiding it all this time? I felt the short stubble at the back of my head and smiled, not quite used to it yet. Outside, the evening breeze hit my exposed neck and head. Cool and awake-making. The system panel appeared. Major change in appearance detected. Facial definition significantly improved. Recalculating. Current score, 62.1. You've left the background character category entirely. Clean and fresh are now your greatest assets. Keep it up. 62.1. From a haircut. Didn't expect that, I said out loud. Mom looked up when I came in, then froze mid-sentence. She stood up and walked around me once. Is that little Bai? I thought some handsome boy had walked into the wrong apartment. Dad lowered his newspaper, pushed up his reading glasses, and gave one of his rare comments. Decent. Reminds me of how I looked at your age. Oh, stop. Mom laughed and swatted at him, then straightened my collar. The kids at school tomorrow are going to get a shock. I laughed awkwardly and escaped to my room. I sat at my desk, not opening any books. I pulled out my phone instead. Ever since scanning Su Bai's score, I'd been curious. What did the numbers actually mean? I needed a reference point. Celebrities seemed like the obvious comparison group. System. True sight. I searched a popular idol from a boy group. Heavy filter, perfect makeup in the photo. Score, 75.2, with makeup. Bone structure average, relies on makeup and styling. Estimated 68 without. Only 75? With millions of fans? I searched a well-known tough guy actor, famous for his rugged look. Score, 78.6. Aged well in terms of presence, strong features, but skin condition brings it down. Might have broken 80 in his youth. I kept going. All the faces everyone called godlike online. The results were surprising. Most working celebrities landed between 70 and 80. A few were in the 60s. Breaking 80 was rare. Only the absolute top tier, under the best conditions, from every angle. One nationally famous actor had scored 88.4 in his prime, but recent photos put him at 82. So the scale was real and it was strict. 60 equals genuinely good-looking. 70 equals class heartthrob level. 75 equals could make it in the entertainment industry. 80 equals the kind of face that stops people. 90 equals I searched everywhere and couldn't find a single active celebrity who got there. I sat back and thought about what this meant. Su Bai was at 76.5. Still developing. Uncut gem. I'd grown up walking to school with her every day for years and just thought she was pretty. She was sitting comfortably in entertainment industry territory without even trying. If she ever started putting effort into her appearance, she could push past 80 easily. And Xiao Wanling? I thought of my seatmate. That cool, untouchable composure, long hair, perfect posture, always the person every head turned toward when she walked into a room. I stared at my dark phone screen. Tomorrow, I decided. I'm finding out that score first thing. I looked in the mirror one more time. 62.1. Genuinely good-looking, by the system's own standards. I threw a triumphant punch at the ceiling and grinned. First morning back after the holiday. Cool autumn air, 6 a.m., system task already waiting. Core strength training. 3 sets of planks, 1 minute each. Done before breakfast. 2 boiled eggs and a bag of milk Mom had left out. Then I shouldered my bag and headed down. In the dim stairwell, I nearly walked into Su Bai coming out of her door. She was still rubbing sleep from her eyes. When she focused on me, she stopped moving entirely, stared at my new haircut for several seconds, then muttered something about me looking like a completely different person and walked ahead with her face slightly red. She glanced back at me 4 more times before we reached the school gate. Half the class was already in the room when I arrived. Wang Hao was face down on his desk napping. "Morning," I said. He lifted his head without opening his eyes, started to reply, then actually looked at me. "What the?" He shot upright. Every nearby head turned. "Bai? Did you get surgery?" "It's a haircut." I shoved my bag into the desk. He stood up and walked around me, even reaching out to touch the short side of my hair. "You've been hiding this whole time? That forehead, those eyebrows, you absolute traitor. How dare you get good looking?" "Sit down," I said, laughing and pushing him away. "Old Zhang first period, go find your homework." The classroom went briefly quiet. Xiao Wanling had walked in. Cream knit cardigan over her uniform shirt, hair soft over her shoulders. She walked straight to her seat, put her bag down. "Saturday morning," I said. "Morning," she said, the usual flat tone. She turned to get her book. Her hand stopped. Those cool eyes caught my new hair, and something flickered across them. A clear flash of surprise, before she looked away. I'd been watching for exactly that. "Something wrong?" I asked, knowing full well. "Nothing." She opened her English book a little faster than usual. "You cut your hair. Looks neater than before." Longest compliment she'd given me all semester. System. True sight. While her head was down, I activated the skill. Xiao Wanling. Appearance score, 78.2, still developing. Refined features, flawless skin, naturally cool presence. Assessment, a natural high-caliber beauty. Surpasses most carefully packaged celebrities without any effort. Enormous potential. 78.2. The number nearly made me say something out loud. Higher than Su Bai. Almost at the 80 threshold. That was top-tier entertainment industry level without a single filter or stylist. 62.1 versus 78.2. I kept looking at her a little too long. Have you seen enough? She turned, brows slightly together, expression somewhere between irritated and unsettled. My eyes had been on her face for over 10 seconds. Oh, there's a breadcrumb. I pointed near the corner of my mouth. Right there. She reached up to touch her mouth automatically. Nothing there. She realized she'd been tricked. She glared at me with genuine annoyance, ears going faintly pink at the edges. So childish, she said, and turned away. The front door banged open. Zhoma came in fast, a slightly crumpled registration form in her hand, and slapped it on the teacher's desk. Listen up. Sports day is Friday. Every other event is full. The men's 3,000 meters has 0 names on it. Are all the boys in this class planning to sit in the bleachers with pom-poms? Everyone suddenly found their textbooks extremely interesting. Heads went down across the room. Wang Hao, with your build, emoji, I'm begging you. This weight is for warmth, not sprinting. She scanned the room. Her eyes stopped on me. She remembered the straight posture at lunch, the clean diet, the quiet confidence when I'd mentioned morning runs. She walked over and put the form on my desk. Su Bai, I heard you've been doing long-distance training. 3,000 meters. Keep our class from having a blank entry. The class looked up, surprised. Everyone's memory of me was still the guy who had to be carried off the track after the 1,000-meter test. I looked at the empty name field. I thought about what my body felt like now, light, responsive, under control. I needed to see what all this work had actually built. Sure. I took the pen and signed without hesitating. Zhoma's face brightened. She clapped my shoulder. That's what I like. Don't push too hard before Friday. I'll be watching. Wang Hao stared at me when she left. 3,000 meters? You cut your hair and lost your mind at the same time. I'll run what I can and walk the rest, I said easily. Beside me, Xiao Wanling turned her head very slightly. Something careful moved through her expression, not quite worry, but close. She lowered her voice. Are you sure you can manage? Don't hurt yourself trying to prove something. A man can't say he can't, I said. She needed half a second to process that. Then her face went red straight down to her neck. She spun away. Do whatever you want. But her heart, for no reason she could explain, had skipped once. Before the morning bell, Wang Hao was already poking me in the back with his pen cap. Stop. I can't produce homework for you by being poked. One look at the English paper. Just one. You'd be saving a life. I handed it back without turning around. The moment I pulled my hand back, the front door creaked open and old Zhang walked in, thermos under his arm, stack of papers under the other. The whole classroom went silent. He took a slow sip of his wolfberry tea, looked around, and put the cup down with a thud. First monthly exam. Next Wednesday. Full district ranking. This is your first big test since class placement. Where you land this time is basically a preview of what kind of university you're heading toward. The room erupted. Groans, panicked muttering, sounds of genuine despair. My pen stopped turning in my fingers. The system made me look better. It had zero responsibility for my knowledge of trigonometry or Newton's second law. The red marks from the last math quiz were still fresh in my memory. Looking good wouldn't help me pass an exam. I glanced sideways at Xiao Wanling. She was resting her chin on one hand, idly drawing geometry diagrams on her scratch paper with the other. The sunlight caught the fine detail of her profile. Old John's announcement had not moved a single muscle on her face. Hey, I said quietly, leaning slightly her way. Quick question. How were your grades before? She looked at me. Why do you ask? No confidence in myself. Thought maybe if you were also struggling, we could at least suffer together. She held my gaze for a moment, then looked toward the board. Fine, I suppose. Fine like top 50 in the year. She lowered her lashes. At my last school, I didn't drop below top 3 in the year. I opened my mouth and left it open for a while. Her last school was the best high school in the city. 98% university placement rate, every year. Top 3 there. Then why transfer here? I finally said. Isn't this a bit like bringing a nuclear weapon to a water fight? It's close to home, she said, in the flattest possible tone. Then she pushed a thick notebook filled with her handwriting to the boundary between our desks. Common exam question patterns. All organized. If you don't understand something, ask me. She turned away immediately and started searching her bag for something that probably didn't exist. Her heart had done something embarrassing when she pushed that notebook over, and she needed a moment. Those next few days I changed my habits completely. Instead of zoning out during self-study periods, I started bringing problems to Xiao Wanling. This calculus question. Why do you take the logarithm in the second step? My head was about 20 centimeters from hers. I could see the neat trimmed edge of her hair and smell that clean cold morning scent she always carried. She was actively working to control her breathing. She could see my freshly cut sideburn, the clear skin, the eyes that had gotten sharper and brighter over these weeks, and which were currently looking straight at her. Look at the problem, she said, tapping the paper with the end of her pen, voice half a note higher than usual. Taking the log brings the exponent down so you can differentiate it. Look here, she explained it while quietly managing her own heartbeat, which had developed the habit of accelerating whenever I sat this close. I listened and understood immediately. Old Zhang explained this 3 times, and it didn't click. You said it once and I got it. I gave her a genuine thumbs up. You're basically my older sister from now on. The corner of her mouth moved almost invisibly upward, then went flat again. I'm not your sister. Do this problem 3 times. Get it wrong once, and you lose asking privileges tomorrow. Behind us, Wang Hao had propped his textbook up to hide his face, eyes peeking over the top. He elbowed Li Fei. You see that? I told you something was different about him. Li Fei pushed up his glasses. From a biological perspective, males in the courtship phase do exhibit unusual levels of effort, including grooming, displaying strength, and attempting to attract female attention. Normal words, Wang Hao said. Su Bai has spring fever, Li Fei said simply. Chen Dong leaned in. What gets me is that she actually answers him. She ignores everyone else. But every time he brings a question over, she explains it. Cold as she is, she hasn't turned him down once. That's because his face can hold up now. If I walked over there, I'd get frozen solid. I turned around and put a thick practice book on Wang Hao's desk. Very lively conversation. Homework all done. 3 heads shook in unison. Sports day? October sun baking the rubber track into that familiar smell. The school loudspeaker looped the athletes' march and a desperate announcer read out encouragement scripts while classes fought over the best viewing spots. Our class had settled under the parasol trees to the left of the main stand. Good shade. Wang Hao came over looking like a man walking to his execution, tugging at a sports vest 1 size too small. I've been set up, he said, pointing at the shot put area. Zhou Mo told me it was the easiest event. Just throw the ball. But the guy from the next class over there, look at him. His arms are bigger than my thighs. He didn't come to compete. He came to demolish the place. I was sitting on a high jump mat spinning my water bottle, watching him with pure enjoyment. It's about participation. Go pick up that ball, throw it somewhere, and our class's moral victory is secured. The bear's waiting. He walked off cursing under his breath with the energy of someone heading to a battlefield. A few minutes later, there was laughter from the throwing area. I could see him from across the field. Full concentration, face turning dark red, big shout, full commitment. The shot put left his hand and landed about 4 meters away. I started clapping immediately. Beside me, Xiao Wanling had been pretending to read. At this, she couldn't hold the expression. Her mouth pulled sideways in a way she couldn't stop. You're terrible, she said, closing her book and glancing at me. Spreading joy in a tense competitive environment, I said, Hey, I need to go check in soon. Can you hold my jacket? I pulled off my school uniform. Underneath was a fitted black dry-fit shirt. The weeks of core training and running hadn't built anything dramatic, but the lines were clean now, shoulders broader, stomach flat with the faint outline of muscle visible underneath. Her eyes paused on that for 1 second, then moved away. She took the jacket and set it across her lap. Don't wander. They'll call your name over the speaker. Got it. I gave a thumbs up and headed for the track. At the 3,000-meter check-in area, other competitors were already warming up. The girls from another class nearby were whispering. Which class is the one in the black shirt? Su Bai from class 3. The one who used to have long hair. No way. He cut his hair, and he looks like that now? That side profile. The words drifted past me. I bent down and tightened my laces. The starter raised the gun. Bang. Everyone surged. I didn't. Long distance isn't sprinting. The harder you push at the start, the worse you die at the end. I settled into a deliberately measured pace, somewhere in the middle back of the pack. Breathing. Rhythm. Arms. Core stable. The system's training had built something real. My upper body barely moved. No wasted energy anywhere. Everything flowing down into the legs. I wasn't fighting to run. I was just running. By the 3rd lap, the early sprinters were slowing, breathing ragged and loud. I went past them at the same pace, face neutral, breathing even. From the class area, I could hear Wang Hao standing on a chair waving his school jacket. Su Bai? For the honor of Class 3, possibly the least dignified battle cry ever shouted at a school sports day. As I came past the main stand, I looked toward our section without really planning to. Everyone was on their feet yelling, except Xiao Wanling. She was still sitting, my jacket across her lap, both hands gripping the railing in front of her, leaning slightly forward, those cool eyes fixed on the track with complete attention. We made eye contact. I grinned at her, the kind that happens without thinking, all teeth, the sun catching my face as I ran past. She froze for a moment. Then she turned away fast, ears going instantly red. Still smiling at a time like that? She muttered, too quietly for anyone to hear. Her fingers curled tighter around the jacket in her lap. By the fifth lap, around 2,000 meters, my lungs were starting to burn. Throat dry, but my breathing rhythm held steady. I could hear the guy ahead of me wheezing like an old engine. Time to move. I started accelerating. The pack had spread out long behind me. The leader was less than 20 meters ahead. People in the stands started standing up. I wasn't thinking about anything, just my heartbeat, heavy and regular. The feeling of pushing past a limit was something close to electric. Last lap. The bell rang. I pulled in one deep breath and used everything left. My stride opened up, the black shirt filling with wind as I cut into the inside lane on the curve and went past the leader clean. The crowd erupted. I crossed the line and my legs nearly gave out, momentum carrying me 3 stumbling steps forward. Wang Hao's voice could probably be heard from space. He came charging over with Li Fei and Chun Dong ready for a group hug. Don't touch me. Let me walk. I waved them off, bent over with my hands on my knees, vision going slightly dark at the edges. Sweat dripped from my jaw and hit the track. Then a water bottle appeared in front of me, already opened. A hand with neat, rounded fingernails and long, elegant fingers. I looked up. Xiao Wanling had pushed through the crowd somehow and was standing right in front of me. Her face, usually so perfectly composed, had small beads of sweat on it. She'd run here. She was looking at me with something she was trying hard not to show. Drink slowly. Don't choke. I straightened up and took the bottle, tipped it back and drank deeply. Cold water down my throat. I felt human again. Thanks, seatmate. I managed a weak smile between breaths. She looked at my sweat-soaked hair and flushed face. Her lips moved like she wanted to say something. Instead, she quietly held out a small towel. Her own towel. It had a faint lemon scent. I reached for it. Su Bai? That was incredible. A figure came flying in from the side like a small missile. Xu Zi in a light blue tracksuit. Unopened sports drink held up like a trophy. Fringe blown loose from running. Face absolutely lit up with excitement. She skidded to a stop in front of me. I saw you from the bleachers. First place. You've been hiding this the whole time. When did you become a runner? I was standing there with Xiao Wanling's water bottle in one hand, the other hand halfway to receiving her towel, completely frozen. The moment went oddly still. Xiao Wanling's hand stopped in midair. Her eyes moved past me to Xu Zi. 2 very different energies meeting for the first time. Xu Zi, bright eyes, 2 small dimples when she smiled, warmth that reached everyone around her like sunlight. Xiao Wanling, tall, composed, chin slightly lifted, those cool eyes taking in the new face with calm assessment. An orchid standing very still. The air paused for 1 second. Xu Zi's smile softened slightly. She looked between me and the girl holding a towel toward me, and something in her intuition registered. Oh, you already have water, she said, voice a little quieter, lowering the drink. My seatmate, I said quickly. Xiao Wanling. I didn't know exactly why I felt the need to explain, but I did. I took the towel and wiped my face. And this is my neighbor, Xu Zi. We grew up together. Hello, Xiao Wanling said, with a small nod. I'm Su Bai's seatmate. She glanced at the unopened drink in Xu Zi's hand, then at me. Since your friend is here, I'll head back to the class section. Don't want to interrupt. Another small polite nod at Xu Zi, and she turned and walked away. Back straight, unhurried, a composed distance wrapped around her like a coat. Hey, I started. She was already gone. Xu Zi watched her go, then raised an eyebrow at me. Your seatmate is really pretty. Very cool, though. Does she talk much in class? Before I could answer, she shoved the sports drink into my hand, patted my shoulder, and grinned. Anyway, last sprint was genuinely impressive. I'll buy you grilled sausages on the weekend. Gotta run. I snuck out, and my teacher's going to notice. She was gone just as fast as she'd arrived, bouncing back toward her class section like a happy bird. I stood there, half a water bottle in my left hand, sports drink in my right, Xiao Wanling's towel still around my neck. Autumn wind came through cool and quiet. I looked back toward our class section. Xiao Wanling was already sitting back in her spot, head down, reading her book, looking like none of the last few minutes had happened at all. The noise of the whole sports day seemed to stop at some invisible line around her. But I could see, from here, that she was holding her book upside down. The system panel blinked. Extreme physical activity complete. Endurance potential increased. Current appearance score, 62.3. Post-exercise hormone bonus, temporary. The school emptied out after the sports day. When I got back to the classroom, most people had already left. The sunset turned the windows red, and Wang Hao was still replaying the race out loud while stuffing snacks into his bag. That final acceleration, I thought you had a motor in your leg. He reached over to feel my thigh muscle. Get away from me. I pushed his hand off and kept packing my books. My body felt strange in a good way. The burning from the finish had faded into something light and clean. The system's improvements were real, and they'd shown up today. I glanced left without meaning to. Xiao Wanling was organizing her mistake notebook, moving slowly, fingers smoothing the pages. The evening sun put a warm golden edge on her profile, softening that usual distant coolness. The half-empty water bottle sat at the corner of her desk, lid twisted tight. I tapped the desk twice without thinking. Hey, I cleared my throat. She finished flattening the page she was on before turning to look at me. Thanks, I said, nodding at the empty bottle and the towel hanging on the back of my chair. I'll wash the towel and return it tomorrow. Her eyes stayed on my face for 2 seconds. My hair was still slightly damp from washing my face, the new shorter cut leaving my features fully visible. No rush, she said, same quiet voice. If you ruin it, you're paying for it. How would I ruin a towel by washing it? It's a limited edition, she said, completely straight-faced. I caught the tiny flicker of mischief in her eyes before it disappeared. This girl just made a joke. An actual joke. We didn't say anything else after that. I shouldered my bag, said goodbye to Wang Hao, and headed out. The school gate was the usual after-school chaos. I'd just wheeled my bike out of the rack when I spotted her immediately, Xu Zi in the light blue tracksuit and yellow backpack, shaking a half-finished bubble tea and bouncing over. You took forever. It's been 10 minutes. She fell into step on my left side and dropped her tea into my front basket without asking. Hold this. My hands are cold. I looked at the taro flavor. My least favorite. Did you come here just to ambush me? I was passing by, checking on our neighborhood's new sports star. She walked with her hands behind her back, light on her feet. Seriously though, have you been secretly training? You were never that fast when we ran from dogs. Depends on the dog, I said, adjusting to her pace with one hand on the handlebars. Tibetan Mastiff, and I'd break a world record. She laughed and swung at my arm. A black car slid quietly over the speed bump nearby. An Audi A8, not a common sight in this working-class school district. Dark tinted windows. In the back seat, Xiao Wanling had just taken out her vocabulary book. She put it back on her lap. Through the dark glass, she could see her seatmate from outside, head slightly bowed, a smile at the corner of his mouth, apparently listening to something the short-haired girl was saying. Xu Zi was laughing freely, her hand resting naturally on the back of his bike seat. The kind of comfort that takes years to build. The kind no one can just walk into from the outside. The driver caught her expression in the rearview mirror. Wanling, is the air conditioning too cold? She looked back down at her vocabulary book. No, she pressed the window button. The glass rose and sealed out the noise, and the two figures walking side by side. Let's go, Uncle Leo. I'm hungry. Xu Zi was still going. You really have changed a lot recently. The haircut, the running, everything. She kicked a pebble along the road, voice a little more serious than usual. Did something happen? Or is there someone you like? She stopped walking and looked straight at me, waiting for a reaction. I rolled my eyes. You've asked me that exact question before. This is the second time. Just wanted to confirm, she said, not backing down. Nothing like that? I swung onto the bike and balanced on one foot. Second year of high school. Taking care of my body. And honestly, I finally got the image that matches my potential. Unbelievable, she said, but the smile she was trying to hide wasn't doing a very good job. Want a ride? My legs work fine. Thank you. She jumped on the back seat anyway. Both hands grabbed the back of my shirt. Go slow. If I fall off, I'm never forgiving you. Hold on. I pushed off and the bike cut a light, easy arc through the evening wind. Saturday morning. Soy milk and exhaust fumes in the air. I stood at the bus stop eating the last half of a purple rice ball. Early autumn sun putting soft light through the yellowing leaves onto my freshly washed white shirt. Wang Hao came across the road at a run, face jiggling, carrying 2 bags of soy milk and that loose sports bag of his. Li Fei followed behind, hugging his exam prep book like it was a family heirloom. You're late, I said, swallowing the last bite. Don't ask. Trash bag leaked. Had to change my trousers. He argued with the breakfast stall lady for 5 minutes about her dough sticks being 2 centimeters shorter than yesterday, Li Fei said flatly. The number 3 bus groaned into the stop. The doors hissed open to reveal a wall of compressed human beings. Wang Hao hesitated. Exam is Wednesday, I said. Unless you can fly. I stabbed the soy milk straw in, tossed the bag, and squeezed on first. Rush hour buses are their own ecosystem. Sweat, leak pastry, cheap perfume, all layered together. Someone pushed from behind the moment I got on, and I lurched forward, grabbed the overhead bar with both arms, biceps locking to stop myself, and ended up about 5 centimeters from the back of a girl in a beige trench coat who hadn't noticed a thing, earphones in, eyes on her phone. I braced for the frown when she turned around. She felt the movement, pulled out one earbud, looked back. Her eyes moved across my face. The frown she'd started never fully arrived. Without saying much, she quietly slid her backpack from her back to her chest and shifted toward the window, opening up a stable patch of floor for me. Sorry, it's crowded, she said quietly. Thanks, I said. She put her earbud back in, but the tension had left her face. After a moment, she used the window's reflection to tuck her fringe back into place. Wang Hao materialized under my armpit, having been bodily moved to the middle of the aisle by a woman with a vegetable basket. She repositioned her bag for you, he said, outraged. That same woman hit me with her basket and told me I take up too much space. This is discrimination. Maybe I look thinner, I said, watching the street outside. He grabbed my arm and squeezed. You're solid as a rock. Makes it worse. The bus hit a speed bump and the whole car lurched. The girl in the trench coat stumbled backward. I caught her elbow with one hand before she could fall. Careful. She steadied herself, ears going pink, said thank you very quickly, and didn't look back again. A minute later, she quietly closed the window halfway. The wind had been blowing toward my side. Wang Hao turned and grabbed Li Fei by the sleeve, pulling him away from his vocabulary flashcards. Explain this scientifically. Is this what people mean by the attractive person advantage? Li Fei glanced at my profile, closed his book, and spoke in his most clinical voice. According to the primacy effect in social psychology, humans have an instinctive positive bias toward people with clean appearances and balanced features. In simple terms, as long as he doesn't open his mouth and ruin it, he has priority rights in stranger interactions. A kind of social access pass. I kicked him. Read your book. We got off at the city library. I had a feeling the girl in the trench coat was still looking as I left, but I didn't turn around. Chen Dong was already crouching by the stone pillar at the entrance, poking at a can of cola with the expression of someone who had been waiting since the previous era. Did you come by ox cart? He jumped up and tried to leap onto my shoulder out of habit. I stepped sideways and he nearly fell. Cold air's going to be gone by the time we get a table, he said, wiping his forehead. Move it. 3 bus was packed, Wang Hao said, still fanning his shirt. I nearly got compressed into a meatball. Meanwhile, Su Bai gets VIP standing space. Less talking. I pushed open the heavy library door and went in first. The electronic board inside the library entrance said 95% full today. We circled the second floor reading room twice. Not a single group of connected seats anywhere. Wang Hao dropped his bag on the floor in defeat. I just wanted somewhere to pretend to study. I spotted a long table by the corner window with one empty spot and possibly room for another across from it. 2 girls in the neighboring school's uniform were sitting there, desks covered in papers, 2 backpacks clearly placed to hold seats. Chen Dong shook his head. That guy earlier tried to sit there and got frozen out with a look. Wang Hao went over anyway, smile carefully arranged. Excuse me, is anyone sitting here? The girl looked up from her physics problem, clearly irritated. Yes, my friend is coming. He retreated. I walked over. Is it really taken? I asked simply. We're just short one seat. Wang Hao and Chun Dong folded their arms and waited to watch me get the same treatment. The girl looked up at me. She paused for half a second. Then she picked up her pink cup, gathered the draft paper she'd spread onto my side of the table, and stacked it neatly. Actually, my friend just messaged saying she's not coming. It's free. Sit down. Wang Hao stared. Li Fei was silent. Chun Dong made a noise. I waved them over. Seats here. Once we'd all sat down, Wang Hao leaned toward me with the energy of a man who had been deeply wronged. This is not scientifically possible. Same question, same table, same two lips forming the same words. I ask, there's someone. You ask, the friend cancels. Explain yourself. Maybe my tone was more sincere, I said, opening my book. He put his giant 1.5-liter water bottle on the table with a loud thud. Could you keep the noise down? The girl said immediately. This is a library. Wang Hao looked like he might cry. My chair had scraped too, and she hadn't said a word. Blatant favoritism, he muttered into his English paper. I pulled out Xiao Wanling's math notebook. The neat handwriting had a faint lemon scent, very different from the musty paper smell of the library. I got to work. About an hour and I hit a wall on a calculus problem. I'd drawn and crossed out approaches twice, tapping my pen in frustration. A yellow sticky note slid across the table toward me. I looked up. The ponytail girl across from us was looking at her water bottle, ears red. The note said, set G, X equals F, X, X, differentiate, and check monotonicity. Don't force solve the equation. I blinked. I'd never received unprompted help from a stranger at a library table before. Usually I was lucky if nobody complained about me breathing too loudly. I wrote under her note, that's exactly what I needed. Thank you. Slid it back. Caught the very small curve of her mouth as she read it. The next 2 hours were less peaceful. Every time I settled into a problem, someone would appear beside my chair, face slightly pink, holding a phone or a folded note. Could I get your contact? I don't understand this question. Could you help? One girl just put a box of pre-cut fruit on the table. I bought too much. Each time I put my pen down, smiled politely, and deflected. No phone today. Sorry, I'm behind on my own work. After the fourth interruption, I pressed my fingers to my forehead and looked back down at the lemon-scented notebook. Wang Hao, wrestling with reading comprehension beside me, watched the whole thing with his mouth twitching. Water break. The four of us went to the hot water room. Wang Hao leaned against the wall like all the life had gone out of him. I tried to borrow correction fluid from that girl, and she watched me like I was going to steal it and disappear. He pointed at himself. You get study tips, fruit, and phone number requests. The world has ended. Chun Dong was laughing too hard to speak. Go back in and do 2 more practice sets, I said, tightening my bottle cap and clapping Wang Hao on the shoulder. If you fail Wednesday, nobody can help you. Something lit up in his eyes. I'm not finishing last this time. I'm going to humiliate all of you people who rely on your faces. I'll humiliate you with my score. Sure, I said. Loser buys breakfast. The kind with meat. Deal. Monday morning, and the calculus was already winning. I stared at Xiao Wanling's notebook, the symbols looking like they were performing some kind of ancient ritual dance. I'd chewed the cap off my pen completely. She was organizing her pencil case beside me, hair in a low ponytail today, neat collar, a pale wrist showing where her sleeve was rolled up. She glanced at my expression. Where did you study this weekend? This is basic first-year material. If you'd reviewed it, you wouldn't be stuck here. I froze. How was I supposed to explain that the library trip had been derailed by fruit boxes and WeChat QR codes because of a number on a system panel? The library was too crowded, I said vaguely. Bad energy. You know how it is. Study feng shui. She looked at me with the expression of someone who was not even slightly fooled, until I found a reason to look somewhere else. Then the girl in the seat ahead, and to my right, slowly turned around. Xin Yu, quiet, short hair, the kind of person whose voice you could barely hear even when she was speaking directly at you. She almost never talked to boys unless she was collecting homework. Her face was unusually pink. Both hands were gripping a light blue notebook, knuckles going white. Su Bai, she said, barely audible, eyes fixed on the edge of my desk rather than my face. I noticed you're working on calculus. I have an error notebook with some classic problem solutions. The steps are very detailed. It might help. I looked up and immediately felt genuine relief. Xiao Wanling's notes were brilliant, but written by someone who skipped steps because they were obvious to her. Xinyu was the kind of student who wrote everything down, every intermediate step, nothing assumed. This was exactly what I needed. You're a lifesaver, I said, taking the notebook with both hands. Seriously, I'll cover your cleaning duty all week. She went red right down to her collar, waved her hands, said it was nothing, and spun back around with a rigid, flustered back. From my left front corner, Lin Xiaoxiao had been watching all of this with a bubble tea bag in her mouth, head tilted like she was studying a rare animal. Su Bai, did you fly to South Korea over the weekend for a face transplant? Same features, completely different result. Before you were maybe a 7 out of 10 in terms of decent looks. Now the skin, the energy, she made an appreciative noise. Keep developing like this, and I won't be able to help myself. Your list of crushes is longer than a dictionary, I said, not looking up. I'm not interested in competing for a spot. That's not the same. She lowered her voice and leaned in with a suspicious gleam in her eye. Speaking of which, you know that guy in class 5? Always wears headphones, quiet type, kind of melancholy looking? I saw him feeding stray cats after school yesterday, and if you two were standing together. She covered her mouth and started laughing at her own thoughts. Eyes lit up with something I recognized as a very specific type of creative imagination. I almost choked on my water. Stop. Stop right there. I leaned back with full-body horror. Clean out whatever is happening in your head. I am straight. Straighter than structural steel. Say another word and your story drafts go straight to the homeroom teacher. No appreciation for art, she muttered, turning back around. I wiped the cold sweat off my forehead and returned to the notebook. Then I noticed the air pressure on my left had changed. Xiao Wanling was holding her pen above her draft paper, a small ink spreading where the tip had been resting too long. She was looking at Xinyu's notebook in my hands. Something moved behind her eyes that she wasn't letting reach her face. She'd seen the whole Xinyu exchange, every pink-cheeked second of it. A feeling she couldn't name was spreading in her chest. She'd been the one lending notes since the beginning. She'd been the one explaining problems. And now he was thanking someone else like they'd handed him a miracle. She quietly pushed her own book back into her desk. Barely any sound. Then she turned slightly toward the window and looked at the bare parasol tree outside, and said, just loud enough for the two of us. Her methods are fairly standard. If there's anything you still can't follow, you can ask me. Then she looked down at her book, leaving me her cool profile. Behind the hair that fell near her ear, just barely visible, the tip of her ear had gone pink. I looked at the cartoon-covered notebook in my hand, then at the girl beside me who was clearly bothered about something while working very hard to look like she wasn't, and scratched my head. I genuinely had no idea what was going on. Wednesday came. Monthly exam day. The building turned into controlled chaos the moment morning reading ended. Single desks, no books allowed, school anti-cheating rules. The corridor filled up with colored stacks of textbooks in minutes. Wang Hao staggered out the back, door nearly buried under his pile. I steadied the bottom before it all went. 13th exam room, he said, putting the books down and wiping his face. Far east end of the floor. All the lost causes together. Can't even find someone's answers to copy. At least you're with your people, I said, brushing my hands. I'd fall apart in room 1. The top 40 scorers got room 1. The rooms went down from there. I'd been placed in room 9, middle of the pack, the awkward zone where everyone wanted to copy, but nobody knew anything. I carried my clear pencil case downstairs. 2 sharpened 2B pencils, 1 black pen, ruler, eraser. I pushed open the door to room 9. The atmosphere was nothing like room 1. No frantic last-minute review. Mostly people spinning pens, staring into space, or studying their own fingernails. When I walked in, the low hum of conversation paused for a second. From the back rows I heard whispered voices. Who's that? Is he in our year? Never seen him. That side profile though. I ignored it, found my seat number, and sat down. The desk wobbled immediately, one short leg. I pulled out a supermarket receipt I'd folded and stuffed in my pocket last night, folded it 4 times more, and wedged it under the leg. Pressed with my foot. Solid. 9 o'clock. The bell cut through the school. The proctor was Old Wong, legendary for being able to read your cheat sheet from 10 meters away. Papers came out white and ink-smelling. First paper, Chinese language. I breathed in slowly and picked up my pen. The system panel blinked at the edge of my vision. I didn't look at it. This exam was a test of something the system couldn't touch directly, actual knowledge. But the weeks of early sleep and regular training had built something real in my brain. Not intelligence, just clarity. The kind that comes from not being exhausted all the time. 2.5 hours. I stayed awake through all of it. When I got to the 800-word essay on perseverance and flexibility, my head was still clear. No brain fog. No nodding off. The essay actually had something to say. Pens down. Anyone still writing gets flagged. Old Wang's shout made several people drop their pens in fright. The bell. The building exploded with noise. I went upstairs with the crowd and nearly walked into someone at the staircase corner. Xiao Wanling. Room 1 was on this floor. She had her pencil case. Same composed expression. The automatic empty circle of space around her that people always gave her without meaning to. Our eyes met. How did it go? I asked as she slowed slightly. She came level with me and said quietly, fine. The classical poetry fill in the blank. The line after sunset clouds and lone duck fly together. I needed 3 seconds to remember it. I stared at her. 3 seconds of hesitation counted as a problem for her. I'd spent 5 minutes staring at my essay prompt before my brain started working. Impressive, I finally said, giving a thumbs up. That's a genuinely unfair level of humble. She looked at me like she wasn't sure what I meant. Then, how about you? Didn't fall asleep. Didn't write outside the lines. I stretched my arms above my head, joints popping. For me, that's already a strong performance. She pressed her lips together, clearly trying to think of something encouraging to say. This was apparently not her natural territory. After a moment, she said, afternoon is math. Good luck. Her ears went pink. Before I could respond, she'd already turned and walked into the crowd heading toward the cafeteria. I looked at her retreating back and called after her. You too. Good luck. Afternoon exam. Math. 30 minutes in. Half the room had already given up. People were sleeping on their desks or staring at nothing. I was sweating through my shirt. The last 2 big questions had diagrams that looked like alien blueprints. I fixed on the second to last question, analytic geometry, ellipse, eccentricity given. A month ago, I would have immediately started thinking about dinner instead. But the bet with Wang Hao was sitting in the back of my head like a splinter. Loser buys breakfast. With meat. This was about dignity. I gripped my pen. Xiao Wanling had said analytic geometry was just simultaneous equations. Don't be scared of the calculation volume. I started working through it. 1 line, 2 lines, a full page of scratch paper. When I finally got a clean coordinate value, the satisfaction was stronger than finishing the 3,000 meters. 15 minutes remaining. I filled in the answer, checked my multiple choice, and looked at the final question. That one was designed for people like Xiao Wanling. I let it go and used the time to verify everything else. The bell rang. I collapsed in my chair. Outside, Wang Hao found me immediately, face pale. That second fill in the blank. Did you get root 3, -1/2? I said. Qindong caught up. I got over 1,000 somehow. Wang Hao made a sound of pure despair. Li Fei said 0. For people, for answers. We're all finished. Li Fei pushed his glasses up. There was a trap. Domain issue. If the answer is 0, the denominator becomes undefined. Wang Hao stood completely still, struck by this information. I patted his shoulder. Start saving up. I want the beef buns from the second-floor cafeteria. Thin skin, generous filling. Back in the classroom rearranging desks, I saw Xiao Wanling struggling to carry a heavy stack of books back to her desk. I walked over and picked up the heaviest pile without thinking about it. Thanks, she said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear as she looked up. No problem, I smiled, showing the small snaggle tooth. Lin Xiao immediately leaned over between us with her gossip radar fully active. Very attentive service, Su Bai. How did math go? Think you cracked the top 500 in the year. Top 500? That's generous. I'll be happy not to be last. She lowered her voice with a gleam in her eye. By the way, I heard that guy from class 5 was asking around about which exam room you were in. I almost choked. Drop it, I said through my teeth. Drop it permanently, or we're done as acquaintances. Xiao Wanling looked between us, confused. What guy? Nothing. Nobody. Nothing at all. I turned to her desperately. Hey, science exam tomorrow. Want to go over physics? I feel like it's going to be brutal. Her mouth did that almost invisible upward movement. Bring your physics book, she said, sitting down and opening her notes. I have some key points to mark for you. I grabbed the book and handed it over like I'd been granted a pardon. Thursday evening self-study. 2 days of exams done. the building finally breathing again. Wang Hao was still debating the physics big question. Apparently no two people in any class had gotten the same answer. I was replaying the afternoon paper when the front door opened. The room went quiet. Old Zhang. No lesson plan, no teaching stick. He scanned the room, and his eyes stopped on me. Su Bai? Come out for a moment. Wang Hao whispered behind me. Did you get caught cheating in math? I put down my pen and walked out under everyone's curious eyes, feeling a strange cold weight starting to form somewhere in my chest. The corridor was cooler. Old Zhang led me to a spot near the window away from the door. His voice was calm and careful. Your mother called me just now. Asked me to tell you directly. My eyelid jumped. Your father was working at the construction site today. He lost his footing on the scaffolding and fell. He's at the second hospital now. My head went blank. A roaring sound. Your mother says the doctor has already checked. It's not life-threatening. Fractured leg, impact injuries. Old Zhang's hand rested on my shoulder. Your mother is there alone managing everything. The exams are done for now. Skip the second half of self-study. Go straight to the hospital. I've already approved the absence. Ride carefully. Don't rush. I stood in the corridor looking at nothing in particular, the image of Dad's everyday working figure moving through my mind. Several seconds passed before any sound came out of my throat. Okay, I said. My voice came out dry. I came back into the classroom just long enough to grab my bag. I didn't say much. Wang Hao asked if it was serious. I said family stuff. I'd go check. I was out the door before anyone could ask more. Behind me, I heard Xiao Wanling's pencil stop moving. The night wind was cold at that speed. I pushed the bike as hard as it would go through the non-motorized lane, the streetlights blurring past. The body the system had built got me there in 2/3 of the usual time. Second hospital. The smell of disinfectant before I even walked in. Electric bikes jammed around the entrance. I didn't wait for the elevator. Stairs, 5th floor, room 503. I found it immediately. The bed by the window. Dad was half sitting up, left leg suspended in a thick plaster cast, white bandages under the yellow light. He was eating from a steel lunchbox like it was an ordinary evening, except his tanned face had gone an unusual pale color underneath. Mom was on a plastic stool beside him, peeling an apple with a fruit knife. Her eyes were red. Dad. Mom. Dad looked up and immediately set the lunchbox aside with a casual laugh. I told them not to bother you. Didn't you have class? Self-study was almost over anyway. I dropped my bag and looked at the leg. What did the doctor say? Nothing serious. He waved his hand, nearly knocking over the water cup. The scaffolding was slippery. Missed a step on the way down. Doctor says the bones are solid. Just a little fracture, a small one. Rested up, good as new. He said it like he'd cracked a chopstick, not a leg bone. I reached out and touched the cold iron railing of the bed. I read the diagnosis card on the headboard. Comminuted fracture of tibia and fibula. Comminuted. Shattered. 2 months minimum bed rest, at least, Mom said, handing Dad the apple slices. She looked at me with exhaustion she couldn't fully hide. Don't listen to your father. This one's going to take time. I pulled a stool over. I noticed the new gray hairs at her temple that I hadn't seen before. Mom, how are you going to take care of him? What about the supermarket? She sighed. The fruit knife paused. I called my supervisor and quit. No choice. He can't be left alone, and a nursing aide costs 200 yuan a day. I'll take care of him myself. Quit is fine. Get some rest, Dad said, chewing apple, voice muffled. We have some savings. Don't worry about money. You just get into university, and this leg could be completely useless, and I'd still be happy. The room went quiet for a few seconds. My hands tightened on my knees without me meaning to, fingernails pressing into my palms. Stop sitting there looking like that, Dad said, reaching over to slap my arm. His palm was rough with calluses, scraped the skin. Your old man's tough. This is nothing. Go home. You have school tomorrow. I'll stay tonight, I said. Mom, you go home and rest. Absolutely not. Both of them at once. Mom was already picking up my bag and steering me toward the door. I'm here. There's a fold-out bed. Your job right now is studying. Nothing else. Go home. Ride slowly. Did you hear me? I stumbled a little from the push. I looked at Mom's face, the forced steadiness, and at Dad in the bed holding on to that casual smile. The word, no, circled my throat a few times and went back down. Okay, I said quietly. I walked out and pulled the door closed. From inside, just audible, Mom's lowered voice. I told you not to show off on that scaffolding, It was unstable. Shoo, don't let the boy hear. I walked down the cold hospital corridor, looked up at the water-stained ceiling tiles, and let out a long, slow breath. The walk home felt longer than usual. Half the streetlights in the neighborhood were broken, the rest flickering. I kicked the stairwell sensor light to make it turn on. My phone was buzzing repeatedly. Xu Zi, where are you? I waited 5 minutes at the gate. That's half a roasted sweet potato's worth of time. Are you in detention? At an internet cafe? Something loosened slightly in my chest just reading it. Neither, I typed back. Then what? You owe me 3 meat buns for this. I stopped outside my door and typed slowly. Dad hurt his leg. Fell at work. Just got back from the hospital. The typing indicator blinked for a long time, then stopped. Then, after about 10 seconds, she replied. No emoji, no exclamation marks. Is he okay? How bad is it? Which hospital? He must be in so much pain. Your mom must be so scared. Su Bai, don't worry. I have over 2,000 in Lunar New Year money saved up. If you need it, just say so. I barely spend money on anything except food anyway. I looked at that last message for a moment. This girl acted like she had no heart most of the time. But when it mattered, she never let anyone down. Nothing serious. Fracture, he'll heal. Keep your money for sweet potatoes. Sleep early. See you tomorrow. Are you sure you're okay? Don't be too sad. Head pat emoji. I'll bring you milk tomorrow morning. I put the phone away, unlocked the door, and went in. The apartment was quiet in a way it usually wasn't. No smell of mom's cooking. No sound of dad's news program. I turned on the light, sat on the sofa for a while staring at nothing, then went to the kitchen and boiled myself a bowl of plain noodles. Ate. Washed the bowl. Did some problems. Slept. Next morning the classroom was loud with post-exam chatter. I walked in and sat down. Wang Hao looked at me from behind his manga book. He didn't say anything, but as my closest friend he noticed immediately that something was off. I was dressed fine, hair neat, but something was running differently underneath. I opened my English book and started morning reading. Xiao Wanling turned slightly. Her eyes stayed on my face for 2 seconds. Didn't sleep well? Her voice was quiet, just for me. I stopped turning pages. I looked at her. Her expression was clear and genuinely attentive. Yeah, I said. No energy to make up a reason. Hospital visit ran late. Her pen hand tightened slightly. She put the pen down and leaned very slightly my way. Someone in your family? My dad. Construction site fall. Fractured his lower leg. Surgery last night. Her brow came together. Real concern, not performed. Is it serious? A few months recovery. Mom quit her job to take care of him. She nodded. She didn't say it'll be fine or don't worry, the empty words people reach for. Instead, she quietly pulled an unopened carton of milk from her desk and slid it over to me. I was about to decline when Lin Xiao spun around from the front row. Su Bai, I just heard. Your dad's in the hospital? She hadn't controlled her volume. Wang Hao, Chen Dong, and Li Fei all heard instantly. Wang Hao threw his manga and leaned over the back of my seat with one arm around my neck. Why didn't you say something last night? What kind of friends do you think we are? Chen Dong crowded in from the side. How bad is it? Li Fei said nothing, but his face was all concern. Even Qin Yu turned around from the front. Being surrounded by all of them, something in the tightness in my chest shifted a little. I pulled Wang Hao's arm off. Relax. Fell. Broke his leg. No risk to his life. 2 months and he'll be walking again. You sure? I'm sure. If I wasn't okay, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. Wang Hao exhaled, then immediately switched into organizing mode. Still, we have to do something. Do what? Let us handle it. He waved his hand with full Big Brother energy. The bell rang, and everyone scattered back to their seats. I picked up my English book again. The words on the page kept refusing to connect into meaning. Xiao Wanling tapped my desk lightly. I turned. She pushed a piece of scratch paper across. On it, in her neat handwriting, I'll take notes for you. Sleep if you need to. I picked up my pen and wrote 2 words under hers. Thank you. That whole day I drifted. Old Zhang dissected the math exam at the front with enormous energy. I sat there looking at the board and seeing nothing. My head was full of hospital bills, rehabilitation schedules, and Mom's hands trembling slightly as she peeled that apple. I was out the door before the bell finished ringing on Friday afternoon. Where are you going so fast? Wang Hao called after me. Hospital. I waved without looking back. Behind me, Wang Hao dropped the joking face the moment I disappeared around the corner. He knocked on Li Fei's desk, gathered Chen Dong, and the 5 of them. including Lin Xiaoxiao and Xinyu from the front row, formed a quiet circle. The plan: Saturday morning, second hospital, bring fruit and milk. Everyone contribute what they could. Wang Hao put in 100. The others added what they had. Lin Xiaoxiao and Xinyu would handle the fruit basket. They were mid-discussion when a calm voice spoke from the aisle. I'm coming too. Everyone turned. Xiao Wanling was standing there with her white canvas bag already on her shoulder. Wang Hao blinked. Sorry, did you just say? I said I'm coming. She looked steadily around the group. One more person shouldn't be a problem. No problem at all, Qindong said, face going red. The more the better, Li Fao noted it down. 9 a.m., second hospital entrance. Xiao Wanling nodded once and walked out. Lin Xiaoxiao watched her go, then leaned toward Xinyu. Didn't see that coming. She's actually quite warm once you get past the surface. Su Bai must have made more of an impression as a seatmate than I thought. I'd just reached the school gate when Xu Zi found me under the camphor tree, hands on her knees, clearly having sprinted from the building. Su Bai, she was still catching her breath. You were completely vague on QQ last night. How is Uncle? Which room? How bad is it? She grabbed my handlebars before I could get on the bike. Room 503. Surgery last night. Comminuted fracture, few months recovery. Then stop standing there. Let's go. She was already on her white bicycle. My mom's working late, but she's making pork rib soup to bring later. I'm going first. And I got him a basket of red Fuji apples. You know that's his favorite. How does your family already know? She gave me a look. Your mom called my mom last night. Obviously. Now move. We rode side by side through the evening light, her short hair flying, racing to keep up. Room 503. Dad was lying there looking resigned while Mom repeated her concerns about workplace safety. The moment the door opened, his whole expression changed. Z, you came. He tried to sit up. Mom pushed him back down. Xu Zi was already moving to the bedside, naturally taking the half-peeled apple from Mom's hand. Auntie, sit down and rest. I've got this. You didn't have to come all this way. It'll distract from your studying, Mom was saying, but the smile she was trying to hide wasn't cooperating. I'm clever enough to handle both. Xu Zi cut the apple into neat pieces and held one out to Dad. Here, Uncle. Apple. Stay safe and recover well. Now that's what I call considerate. Dad chewed happily, then turned to glare at me. You've been standing there since you walked in without saying a word. Look at Zi. Then look at yourself. You're like a wooden post. I hung up both our bags and watched Xu Zi settle in next to Dad like she'd always belonged there, chatting about school. Gossip, adjusting the bed angle, tidying the cluttered bedside table, making Mom laugh for the first time since yesterday. She knew exactly what made each of them feel better. She'd known this family almost as long as she'd known her own. The old man in the next bed watched for a while, then announced cheerfully, That must be your daughter-in-law. Look at her, pretty and capable both, Dad laughed. Before he could explain, Xu Zi went slightly pink but didn't deny it, just smiled and said, I'm basically their half-daughter, Uncle. I stood by the window. The evening sun fell across her face as she focused on Dad. The tightness that had been coiled in my chest since yesterday slowly, finally, started to ease. Su Bai, why are you just standing there? She turned and waved at me. Go fill the thermos. He needs water for his medication soon. Yes, ma'am. I picked up the thermos and smiled, and it was a real one this time.